I'm with it.
It was fear that kept my mom from continuing on her education of self. It was fear that kept my mom from continuing to go down that rabbit hole that I went down that brought me out of Christianity. My mom was on that journey. My grandmother was on those journeys. And it was fear that brought them back to the church. It wasn't love for God, it wasn't reverence for God. It was fear of hellfire. That's why they went back to the church. I didn't realize it until years later, years after my mom had died, that my mom went on the exact same journey that I partook in when I was 18 years old. The difference between she and I is that the information that she found scared her so much that rather than embark and go down that rabbit hole to find the truth at the end of that tunnel, she decided to back out and go back to church because she was scared. I'm not. I decided to push past that fear because even when I went down that rabbit hole, I too was also fearful. The difference between she and I is that I'm not in a relationship that made me fearful enough to stay in Christianity. And what I mean is this: in my line on the matriarchs of my family, one thing is for sure: Christianity and abuse was synonymous. They were one and the same in my family. A lot of the women in my family stayed in abusive relationships and also stayed in Christianity, which was also another form of abuse. It was another abusive relationship because a lot of the men that my ancestors, my maternal ancestors, had to deal with were hanging that and using that over their heads. So when I see those patterns, I have to recognize it within myself. I had to make a choice. I had to make a decision on whether or not should I just be deeper into Christianity so I can seemingly wash away the doubt of my family line, or maybe the matriarchs of my family were onto something. And when I started doing my own study, I started realizing what was the appeal of leaving the church. You know what the appeal was? It wasn't living out in this world in sin like y'all think. It's about true freedom, freedom to be, freedom to just exist. Christianity does not allow you to do that. And Christianity in my line in particular, my bloodline, I can't speak for anybody else's, but in my bloodline in particular, it has also validated a lot of the abuse that they experienced. I'm not in an abusive relationship. And the most abuse I've ever received in my life was when I was a Christian, when I was around Christian people. And so for me, yeah, breaking away from Christianity, I think for me, is freeing from my bloodline. When I tell you that my ancestors has been calling for me since I was 9 years old, I've heard the calling. I thought it was the Holy Spirit, but it wasn't. Because even when I was baptized at 18, when I tell you, when that pastor put me down underneath that water and I pulled out, you know how some of y'all Christians say that, oh wow, you just felt so light and you felt the Holy Spirit on you. I felt like I had made the biggest mistake of my life. My ancestors were, you made a mistake. So when I did start answering them, their call away from Christianity, the call to our true way of life, that's when I started finding real peace. And I know somewhere out in the ethers, my mom is finally at peace. Finally at peace.
What's going on, everybody? It's your girl Shot Bliss, aka Mama T. We in the building. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me. Put a one in the chat. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me. I am live and in direct. I just need to know if y'all can hear what I'm saying in the chat. Oh, Sookie now. Sookie now. Listen, we got a show lined up for y'all today. But before we get things started, I need you to know if you organic to the planet, and this is your planet, this is your home, you originated. Your bloodline came here and sowed seeds up in this piece. I need you to put them globes up. I need you to put them globes up. I need you to put them globes up. Come on now. And if you know you wasn't brought here on no slave ship, you know your ancestors been here for eons, came up out the dirt, came out the waters, out the fires, out the air, and out the seas. You better put them feathers up. You better put them feathers up. You better put them feathers up. Come on, y'all. You know how we do it in here. You know how we do it in here. That's right. That's right. Listen, I want to welcome everybody to the podcast. We have a lineup installed for you. Listen, it's a heavy hitter tonight, y'all. This is a heavy hitter tonight, y'all. Welcome, sacred souls, to the Stella Maris podcast. I'm your host, Shot Bliss, and tonight we are diving into the mysteries, the powerful and often misunderstood realms of the voodoo, that hoodoo, and all that divination, all that stuff they told us, yo, that's of the devil. Honey, these ancient spiritual systems trace back to the very beginning of time. When those wise ones, them ancient ones, the keepers of the spiritual knowledge walked this earth. Yeah, some they abstract figures, but to us, these are divine mothers and fathers. These weren't just practices. Baby, these were lifelines. The language of the soul passed down through generations. But somewhere along the way, fear and stigma crept in. Hollywood told us that these practices was evil. Mainstream religions tried to bury them. Western cultures made us forget we once knew that these sacred systems are our divine inheritance. You feel me? You feel me? Think back to Big Mama on the porch watching the leaves rustle as the winds whispered warnings of the coming storm. Or Granddaddy hearing them dogs howl at night, knowing that the energy has shifted. Remember how Big Mama would retreat to her prayer closet and light them candles and calling on the power of the spirit to protect the family. Whether it was lighting candles, throwing cowrie shells, or crafting remedies from herbs in the garden, this was the spiritual science of our ancestors. This was our old time religion. And now, in the midst of the world, we face and feel the chaos, the energy of uncertainty. Many of us are awakening, many of us are remembering, as well as reclaiming. Because these systems, voodoo, hoodoo, divinations, were never meant to instill fear. Now, unless you step to us left, you feel what I'm talking about? Then you best be scared. But at the same time, they were meant to heal, to guide, to connect us to the spiritual realm, especially when the physical world felt heavy, desolate, separated us from the connection of the earth, of the wind, of the fires, of the waters. Because after all, this is what the body is composed of. We knew how to connect. We knew how to return to the essence of all things. So tonight, y'all, we are breaking the chains, the stigma, the stepping. You know what? I'm going to stop reading this thing. I'm going to get this thing right off the top. Tonight, y'all, we breaking the chains. We are breaking the stigmatism. We are stepping into our truth, our divine power. We are reclaiming all that was stolen, all that was taken from us, all that was demonized in the name of some of the people that came over here witnessing and watching us perform these miracles. That shit scared them to death. So they had to turn around and scare us up out of our own power and substitute it with something that didn't look like us, something that didn't feel like us, something that we did not even know. But as they were beating it into us and beating it into us, our ancestors still transmuted and transformed them saints and turned them into orishas. Took all their symbols and reformed it and changed it into our own spiritual power. We are the original alchemists of this thing. We know how to flip the mode. We know how to change the script. And tonight, this is what we are doing. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring on to y'all the sister I was following for a minute. I ran across this sister about 3 years ago. And we were all everybody going through their journeys around the same time. And I seen this sister in these hotel rooms, flipping these cards, talking about karmics, still putting in the work. You could tell she was going through her transition, but she was still flipping them cards and putting in the work and delivering the message to the chosen ones. Because she knew in her heart that she had a job to do. And regardless of her situation and her circumstance, she returned to that old time religion, listening to the voices of her ancestors, opening up the doorways, opening up her doorways, putting through tests and trials, fortifying her spirit and turning her into a divine queen that she is. Without further ado, let me introduce y'all to the stage to my sister, Shavai Zayn in the building. Come on in here, girl. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate that introduction. It almost moved me to tears. I'm like, I can't start crying right now.
That's you, boo. That's all you, sis. That's all you. Welcome. Look, it's an honor.
It's an honor to be here for
graced
sure.
with your presence in here today. Oh, she all dolled up for y'all. She came in here looking like the divine goddess that she is. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Ashe. So before we begin, for those of you who don't know, tell everybody who you are, what you do, your little background about yourself. Introduce yourself to the people.
Yes, so I'm Shavai Zayn. I consider myself to be a spiritual counselor, a healer, a teacher, somebody that's here to guide and inspire others on their journeys. As was mentioned before, it's like I've been on my path for at least let me see, I started at 33 when I was first consciously aware of being on the journey. So 33 is a really powerful number, master number 33. That's when I awakened. And it took me on a very interesting journey. I don't know if you want me to get into every detail about it.
Get into, honey, it's your turn. Go ahead. Okay. Tell everybody, because your journey helps other people on their journey.
Yes.
As we share
at that time, prior to awakening, I was practicing as a Hebrew Israelite for a couple of years. I kind of ran into that and started doing that. Yes. I did Christianity most of my life. And then I ended up leaving the church because something just didn't sit well in my spirit. It was just like, I just know that this European stringy-haired man is not who they say he is. So I was on the search for something different. I'm a life path 7. So it's in my nature to want to search and investigate. Yes. So when I realized that that's just not what was in alignment with me, I ended up stumbling across the Hebrew Israelites actually online. And it empowered me in a way because it was like, okay, this is a Black Jesus. Okay, that might be a little bit more in alignment, right? And then, they were saying we're the chosen people, which when they said we was chosen, that resonated in my spirit. You see what I'm saying? It was like, I feel like there's something different about me. I've always operated with integrity. I know I'm a good person. I always go for the underdog. So I got to be chosen, all the things that I've gone through in my life. So I did that for a couple of years. But then I started to realize that my voice, my throat chakra was starting to open and I wanted to speak. I wanted to tell people this is what it is. I was taking my Bible around ready to talk to the Jehovah's Witnesses on the sidewalk. Like, hey, yeah, you're a Hebrew Israelite. And, I just wanted to speak. But what I recognized also was that we wasn't supposed to speak. The women were supposed to remain silent as a Hebrew Israelite. And that didn't sit well in my spirit. So the Aries in me was like, you know what? The
That
most I
fire
said, I
came
gotta
out.
remove that. That's not it. So I branched away from that. And one day I would just say I stumbled upon this lady that was speaking on crystals. Just out of nowhere on YouTube. And I was going through a lot at that point in my life. And she seemed so happy and bright. And I was like, what are these things, crystals? I had never heard of crystals before. Knew about diamonds and rubies and things like that, but I didn't know that they were considered crystals. So that kind of kicked me off into this search of understanding energy, because I bought my own crystals and I started to feel different. I started to awaken. Um, and from there, I had a circumstance where, oh, mind you all, I was working as a registered nurse at this time. So that was my background, nursing. And so I was buying all of these crystals, and my oldest daughter had a health scare.
Mm.
And the beautiful thing is that when she had this health scare, I was already being taught that your mind create things. Everything that you think about is
Right.
going to manifest. It will come
Right.
into fruition. And so when
Mm-hmm.
they gave her this diagnosis of brain cancer when she was 3 years old, I went into that hospital and I knew that they was lying. In my mind, you don't know what you're talking about. In my mind, that's an illusion, right?
Right. Right.
So myself and her father, we wanted to give her natural remedies. And with me working as a nurse, I kind of understood the way things move, but I didn't know from that angle that it was so corrupt. They literally threatened
Wow.
to take our children if we didn't go through with the chemotherapy.
You didn't get the
Right?
medication.
Exactly. And so it was one of those things where we had our back up against the wall. We ended up putting her through chemo, but the Most High started to show me my
Mm.
gift of using herbal remedies, spirulina,
Okay.
activated charcoal. Like she ended up getting an NG tube where she had to be fed through her nose to put it into her
Mm.
stomach, right? So that
Yeah.
was the gift that we received because my ancestors started speaking through me at that time. And they said, give her this, put this in the NG tube. And I ended up getting her this feeding that was all vegan feeding. So it had nothing in it that can harm her. And so when she was getting those chemicals, her body was bouncing back. And they couldn't believe how fast she was bouncing back from these chemicals that they was giving her.
So let me ask you a question. You said
Hmm.
the ancestors started talking to you. Were they talk? Did you ever have this experience with them talking to you before? Or were you attributing this to maybe the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost? Did you always have a connection to what you calling now the ancestors? Because now the reason why I asked that is
Hmm.
because that has been removed from us, right? We can, they'll tell us those are demons, right?
Hmm.
And so now we attribute to these divine messages that we get to a substitute that was given to us from these Western religions. So my
Yes.
question to you is like when you were going through these things with your daughter, and you said the ancestors started giving you this information
I'm
on
so sorry, Shay. I'm so sorry. My computer is trying to die on me and I didn't even know this. Let me just
oh,
make sure that I
okay.
plug this up real quick because I don't want no disruptions here. Um,
No, it's okay. You good.
okay.
Take your time. It's all good. So I guess my question is this: when did you start to connect to your ancestors? Was it at that moment, or were you always in connection to them? Did you even know what is that what it was?
Yes, I'm just gonna plug this up real quick and I'm gonna answer that question here.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am. In the meantime, y'all listen, I got a quick little announcement. I am God frequency in the building. Listen, if y'all don't know, you better know now. I'm the first to tell you, so I guess you don't know. This summer solstice, we are having the first Quantum Fest Metaphysical Festival in H Town this summer solstice. It's going to be full of metaphysical healers, speakers. Stella Maris podcast will be doing a live podcast there with a live audience. This is going to be a 2-day event. So if you want to register, you want to be a speaker, you want to be a vendor, I suggest you follow the link. I am God Frequency is going to drop in the chat. I'm going to tag it here in a second, but it is going to be called the Quantum. What is it? What is it? The Quantum Kingdom Fest. We just named it today. We've been working on this thing for a few months, and now it's finally about to be kicked off this summer solstice, the Quantum Fest. All the heavy hitters, Sister Zayn, you will be receiving an invite. Everyone will be
absolutely. Okay.
receiving an invite who wants to come out to H Town and do a presentation. who wants to be a speaker, who wants to be a vendor. This is going to be for us, by us, and it's going to be a phenomenal event. So follow the link. I Am God Frequency is going to drop. I'm going to tag it in a second. But I just wanted to put that out there. I didn't mean to cut off the Sister Wisdom, but while she was setting up her equipment, I just wanted to throw that out there. So the Quantum Fest, this summer solstice, June 21st, 22nd, I believe that's the date. If you want more information about it, follow the link that she drops into the chat. All right, y'all? Okay. All right, Sister Zayn. I'm sorry about that. Just wanted
No, thank
to
you for
let
your
in right quick.
patience. So I would definitely say at that time, I didn't understand the ancestral connection.
Mm,
I can't say that I used that language at that particular time. I was
okay.
still, let's just say I was awakened, but I still had a little bit of crust in my eyes. So this
Okay.
would be like my daughter would have been 3, she's now 9. So this was 6 years ago.
Okay.
So, I was still fresh in my
Yeah,
awakening,
yeah.
maybe a
We
year in.
teeter-tottering at that time.
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe a year in. And so I was still actually learning how to remove the Jesus away from
Mm,
my vocabulary. I
mm,
wasn't 100% there because remember, I had just come out of the Hebrew Israelite
right.
understanding. So I felt like
Well,
I
Jesus
still had
turned into
to implement it.
Yahshua.
It turned into Yeshua. And
Yes,
so
yes.
I felt like I still had to connect through that route or
Portal.
that portal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I
So
totally understand.
but I know for a fact that they were speaking to me because the signs and the messages that I was receiving was just powerful. And so I was fully confident that she was going to be healed. And today she is healed. So,
Oh,
6 years later, she's doing
amen.
100% well. But I
Awesome.
say that moving on from that, it showed me that the medical industry is wicked. And so I knew
Mm,
working as an RN, I can't stay here. I'm awakened to what's going on behind the scenes. They threaten to take people's children if you don't take these chemicals, knowing how harsh they are to the body.
right,
It
right.
just was a contradiction to what I was learning in my awakening. So I spoke to the Most High about it. I call the Most High Mother and Father. I
Okay.
acknowledge
I
both the
said
divine
the
masculine and feminine
duality.
energy of the Most
Yeah.
High. Yes. And so the Most High, a lot of chaos took place. I asked for change happened, and it pushed us into a hotel room. This was literally right before COVID. I moved out with my family. I was having issues with my husband at the time. Okay. And so we left. I needed support. So I went out back east to stay with my family. And one day they woke up a couple of months and they said, look, y'all got to go. The landlord
Wow.
said,
Family.
yeah,
This family.
the landlord said y'all got to go. Now this is right in the smack dab when COVID began. So, landlords wasn't putting nobody out at that time. But I saw it as a sign that something is shifting. I asked for change. I asked for my purpose. So I got
Right.
to be placed in an environment where I can carry it out. So the moment that I went to that first hotel room, it was full of, people that was on drugs, prostitutes. It was one of those, y'all.
Oh,
But
wow.
I had my cards with me. I had a deck of regular playing cards. And I sat down and my spiritual team said it's time. So that's when I started doing my readings. I started on Facebook Live and I knew I had to put myself out there. And from there, like everything just began to shift. All of the downloads, like my spiritual team was just telling me, look, you got to heal, you got to purge, you got to cleanse.
Mm,
And so I did a lot of spiritual work, a lot of declarations. That's where my deck that I have, Declare and Decree, that's where that deck was born years ago because I
wow.
started declaring and decreeing fear out of my life, insecurities. I had to declare and decree unhealthy contracts and bondage that my
You better,
ancestors was under.
girl, listen. I did that I had to do I did this declaration for the first time several months ago. And it felt like it shattered all those generational curses just
Yes,
by utilizing the power of the word and speaking these things into existence, right?
yes.
So when you say declaration and you have these cards, that really triggers something because when did you become attracted to the cards? Because you said that you had your cards with you, right?
That's right.
Regular playing cards.
So
So
I guess I did
what
skip
drew
over that
you?
part.
No, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. So what drew
So
you to the cards?
when I started learning about crystals, I started to understand energy a little bit more. And I'm like, but how can a rock shift your energy? So I wanted to know more about energy in and of itself. So I started looking into different things, and once you look at things about crystals, YouTube will pick up in the algorithm and it will throw certain things out there, right? So it would throw
Yeah.
out readings. And when I heard my first reading on YouTube, I was like, how is it possible that this person knows what's going on with me? They've never met me, they've never heard my voice, they've never seen me, but they know my
Right.
situation. So I needed to understand that. So I went and got my first deck of cards. And I found that it was literally giving me a portal, an entryway to be able to communicate with my spiritual team. So I started
Boom.
just speaking directly to my spiritual team. What do I need to know? What do I need to do? And it carried me all the way through that entire time that I was living in a room, not really knowing where things was getting ready to go. It carried me because they kept reminding me, keep going, keep going. You're moving towards success. And I'm like, where is it coming from? But I never lost my faith in the situation, though. I
Right.
knew that things was happening and it was unfolding for a reason. And that's why now today I understand that chaotic energy does
Mm.
not equate to failure. It just means
Right.
that the path is being cleared so that you're
Yes.
able to get towards your destiny. So you got to
Absolutely.
actually welcome chaotic energy just as much as you welcome the calmness. All of it is
Indeed.
used to work out for your
Indeed.
highest good. So
Right.
that's where I began with the cards. I was actually at work. I was a registered nurse reading for my patients at work. And
What? Hold up. Stop.
I
So,
was.
what made you do that? Like, what made you reach for that? Okay, first, slow down for a second. I want to ask you this. You didn't get a regular tarot deck, did you? You went and just got the regular playing card. Was that
Well,
what you
this
started with?
this is what happened. I had a lot of decks. When I initially started, I had a lot of just oracle decks, tarot cards. This was well
Okay.
before we ended up in a hotel room. Things I was still working as a nurse. I had a lot of decks.
What made you go that route? Like, why did you start to gravitate towards decks? What was it about the deck, the cards?
It was just something about my spirit that it spoke to me. It felt
Mm,
like it was something that I was meant to do. Like when I saw a lot of the readings on YouTube, the algorithm was kicking out a lot of European women that was doing readings.
mhm.
And in my spirit, I felt like it wasn't reaching deep enough.
Was it connected?
It wasn't connecting well enough. But I had also gone to a tarot reader when my daughter was in the hospital.
Really?
You know how you just ride past somebody's place and they have the sign
The
out
big
there. So
hand at the front? Yeah.
yes, so I went up to
Yeah, I
her.
saw
I
it.
went to her, and it was this old European woman.
Oh,
And
those are the good ones.
hold on now, let me back it up though, because this one was
Uh-oh.
on some other stuff.
Uh-oh.
So she
Oh,
told me,
shit.
"Hey, put your hands out." I put my hands out, and she put her hand above mine about this high, and she said, "Ooh, the energy is so good." I mean, and I was like, "Wait a minute," and I'm not even exaggerating. But my vibration at that time was super high because I felt good to see my daughter healing. I felt good to know that I was tapping in. I was working with my crystals. I was doing readings for my patients, but I needed somebody else to give me a direct reading just to verify like things are going to be well with her by the time she's
Right.
done with these treatments. So
Okay.
she knew that my energy was like up there. She also knew that I had a gift because she told me, you're going to be a spiritual teacher. You're going to, have like a school where you're teaching people. So I was like, okay. But this woman called me. She kept blowing up my phone after that. Now that's not a good sign. When
Oh,
somebody is constantly reaching for
wow.
you, then you know something is not right about that person.
Yeah, that's, kinda
She called
scary,
me one day
kinda
and she said,
creepy.
yeah, she called me one day. She said, "Are you seeing 555?" I was like, "Yeah, but what would make you call me?" She was like, "I need you to come and see me right away. I feel like you have negative energy around you. And if you pay," she told me if I paid, she wanted me to take $500. She wanted me to bring $500. She wanted me to go get a black cloth, put the $500 inside of the black cloth, rub the cloth all over my
Oh,
body
shit.
from
Mm-mm.
head to
Hell
toe
no.
and
Mm.
give her this cloth with this $500.
Wow.
Now, remember, I got crust in my eyes. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, my spirit was saying no, but some part of me was like, well, is this what I'm supposed to do? Is this how this thing
Ooh.
works? Ultimately, I said no, but now that I'm awakened, I recognize she was trying to steal my
She was
energy. Black absorbs
money,
energy.
energy, everything.
Black,
Yes, trying to
yes,
wrap
black
that shit up
absorbs energy. And I was going to
in a
pay her
black
to take my energy.
oh,
You see
shit.
what I'm saying?
God, woo, honey, make me want to go take a bath right now just
I'm
by hearing
telling
that
you.
story. That is crazy. So she
Yeah,
recognized your energy.
she
See,
did.
this I want to this I want to stay here for a second because we don't know, many of us, right? We don't know what we holding. We don't know the power that we have until we're tested, until something normally tragic happens, right? And then we start tapping into that primordial power where we start pulling out our energy. And it's funny, you said you had decks and you were attracted to decks, and then you had got a reader about your daughter, and then you went to see someone, and when they saw you, they did something. Your hands alone have so many energy points, period. So for someone who flipped cards, it's really through the power of your hands that you're able to channel,
Hmm.
right? The messages through the cards. So when I thought you were saying that you had playing cards because the playing cards are the original tarot cards, right? Especially remember the old bicycle. I keep a deck
Yes. Yes,
everywhere,
I have them.
right?
Yes.
Right. I'm sure you do, right? And so that's how we communicate. Some of us, that's how we communicate with the spiritual realm, through the patterns, the signs, the signals, of this and that and the other. But we don't know because we were told to stay away from that. So when you went from one school of thought, religion, to the other school of thought, and they just changed the color. It was still the same, the constraints that was on there, and you still had that nature in you, and you weren't able to express yourself divinely,
Yeah.
right? And because the way women, some of us express ourselves divinely, it's held as a form of taboo, or it's demonic, right? Because we're drawn, many of us are drawn to cards, crystals, astrology, um, candles, all kind of things. And it's like, because something in our spirit communicates, it's a tool that we use to communicate with the spiritual realm. And when you went into to this woman's her business, place of business, and she felt that energy on you. So she knew, and you didn't recognize, because you said you had the crust in your eyes, right?
Yes.
But she recognized that shit because
Oh, yeah.
we're born with it, right? And we have to go through certain things to awaken it in us, and sometimes it's under some form of trauma or crisis that we have to go through, and then it comes rearing out. So after you had to debate with it in your mind whether this is something that you should do or not. What made you, how did you feel about that when she questioned you and asked you to do that? And it sounded like she tried to cast a spell on you, number one, and
It
by
does.
asking if you see these numbers, and then da, 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 and then you gotta bring her this money. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Like this was a whole ritual she was
Oh,
trying to
yes.
do on you. So what made you, what alerted you, and what turned you the other way, and what made you dive even deeper into your craft?
First of all, the fact that she contacted me, the fact that she reached out to me, I felt like that was offensive, you know.
She was dreaming
So
about your ass.
yeah, when she did that, I felt like something just wasn't right about it. So I ended up telling her, "Well, I'll just think about it. Let me just think about it." She ended up calling me back.
Oh
She
shit.
called, she initiated calling me back. So when she did that, I knew she was desperate, and I felt like it was something more to the agenda behind what she was doing. So I told her no, and she called me back again. And she said, "You really don't understand just how much negative energy you have around you. I'm really just
Oh
here to
my
help you." So
gosh.
from
So
that
she was
point,
trying to put that in your ear.
oh yeah, yeah. From that point, I told her I don't want you contacting me anymore, and I blocked her to where she couldn't reach out again. So of course, I would never stop past that particular place again. And now, at this point in my life, I'm very, very
And they talk about us.
skeptical about who I let do readings for me, because, and I always tell people that, be very mindful. If somebody is
Right.
telling you, "Hey, I see negative energy around you," that's one
Yeah.
of the
It's
first
a
things they're
scam.
telling you, and now they want to get money from you. You already know
Yeah.
automatically it is a scam. So
They
yes.
pimping fear and
Yeah, but you know
intimidation.
what that did though? That situation actually showed me that anybody can read cards and tell you, they can tell you what they see, right? They can learn
Mm,
cards and they can tell you what they see based on the technical meaning of the card. But not everybody has integrity. Not everybody is chosen
right.
for it.
Exactly.
So I started using my cards, and I'm like, well, I know that I have integrity. And when I do readings for people, I want to dive deeper. I'm going to go beyond the surface. So when I started doing my readings for my patients at work, the reason why I started doing that is because I didn't know how to separate the two at that point. I knew that I was meant to do spiritual work, but I also had to go to work. So it was
Well,
like, okay, you got these issues, because I was always the type of person where I would sit in my patient's room and I would talk to them for long periods of time. This is well before I even awakened. I just wanted to hear them out. I was that nurse, or even the CNA when I worked as a CNA, where I was the one that would just listen. And so once I started reading cards, I said, well, this would be a good tool to tap in and go a little bit deeper with them. So instead of them coming up to the nurse's station to get medicine, they was in lines to get a reading.
Get the reading.
A reading, okay?
That was the medicine, honey.
Oh,
that
yeah, that
was
was definitely the medicine. And so it just opened my eyes that it's something beyond what we see here. And so that gave me the practice that I needed. And I feel like my spiritual team was like, okay, she got it. She's not even letting her title rule her purpose. Instead, she's still fulfilling her purpose.
You were practicing.
That's what
you
I'm
were
saying.
getting paid to practice. How about that?
Yes, and so that's when the next door opened, the next portal opened at that point. But it's almost like, how you're in a movie, if a portal opens and it'll shoot you through, and it's like you're falling into something and it's chaotic and you don't know where you're going.
Right.
That's the type of energy that happened for me when that portal opened. After I started doing readings for my patients, my spiritual team was like, she's ready for the next level, but it's going to be chaotic getting there. So it was like, I forgot the name of that movie. Follow the Yellow Brick Road. What's the name of that movie?
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. Yeah, when she was taken up and she didn't know where it was taking her.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
how
she
I
was
felt.
in a tornado whirlwind.
That's what I'm saying, and that's where it took me, and that's when we ended up in the hotel room. So from there, everything just, but
just
in that room, that was my cocoon. That was literally my cocoon, and I transformed.
For your transfer. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, did I transform in that room? And the crazy part, a lot of people would be like, well, why was you staying in a room and you had a license to work as a nurse? Well, it's because when I got back east, when I moved to the East Coast, I lost my ID. The first week I got there, I had no identification. Don't ask me how this happened. I had no identification. So when COVID came about, I couldn't even transfer my nurse's license to Washington, D.C. because I had no identifiers. Not only that, but I couldn't send for my ID because all of the buildings had been shut down because of COVID. All of the government buildings were shut down. So I had no way to go and actually work. So the Most High said, no, you're going to sit down. You're not going to go anywhere. You definitely ain't going to go to work as a nurse. And you know why that happened is because Washington, D.C., they ended up mandating the COVID vaccine for nurses.
So you were being covered, sis.
I was covered.
You was being covered out here. They was like, oh, not you.
It was one of those situations where, as a mother, and I got all these arm babies, it's either going to be I go to work and I get this vaccine and I take care of them and get out of this hotel room, right? In my mind, I love my children. So I would have likely went and done that. You see what I'm saying?
Your ancestors knew
no,
better.
I'm even going to have a license to even attempt to do it. I'm going to make sure I shut all of that down so that you don't go back and forth.
Wow. That's how it works. That's exactly how it works. You don't realize that you're being protected at the time. You're being kept away from things. You're being sheltered in a way, right? And we're thinking we're being isolated. And it's all about you honing into your craft and focusing on what you have right there in front of you, as opposed to thinking that we got to go out here in this job, we got to do this, we got to eat with this and that and the other. They purposely isolated you, not only for your protection, but for you to really start honing into your spiritual craft, right?
Yes.
So I want to, with that being said, I want to ask you, I guess this is around the time when most of us started finding you on YouTube, because you was pumping out them videos and you was talking just like what you said when you were reading, people were reading and you were like, how do they know? Because that's how I feel when I click on some of your videos and you talk about karmics and relationships and chosen ones. And it's like you are just talking to me, because it's and that's like I'll hit your video at a certain time. Like I don't watch them every day. I don't look at them all the time, but there are certain times you'll pop up. and I'll see the title and I'll be like, oh snap, let me see. And I click on it and I'm like, wow, that was for me. That
Yeah.
was for me. So let me ask you, when did you start getting into, because it seems like your specialty is talking about karmics and karmic relationships.
Mhm.
What made you like stay in that area when it comes to that? Because it's so I study astrology, and we know, and I'm big on karma, right? And I'm one of those types. Like I can't do nothing. The moment I try to step left, the whole world ends around me. So
Mhm.
I have to stay on a certain path, or else it just don't work. All my friends could get away with stuff. Everybody I know could get away with stuff. Me, if I take a chewing piece of chewing gum that don't belong to me, honey, I'm paying $25,000 or something. Like it's like I get hit immediately with karma. And studying astrology, when I started unpacking that and started understanding the power of Saturn, and Saturn rules karma and where it's placed in my chart, I'm like, oh, I can't do nothing. So when I come across your videos and you're talking about that, what made you want to focus on karma when you do your readings?
So I wouldn't even say it's something that I wanted to focus on. It was something that
Mm,
I was guided to put strong emphasis on between the karmics in your personal life as well as the powers that were on a more global level. So during my transition, I was surrounded by a lot of karmics. Let's just put it that way.
mm,
I attracted a lot of karmics, but I had grown up around a lot of karmics and it dimmed my light. I didn't know who I was surrounded by these people. I was very, very shy for many, many years until I was about 30 years old. And so being around people where I felt like my voice, my throat was blocked, I didn't
throat chakra.
understand why I always felt like the outsider. As sweet as pie,
Mm,
wouldn't hurt nobody, but
she was
just
in the
wasn't
shell.
accepted. And so I had to understand what is the spiritual nature behind this. So that was one of the questions that I started asking in the beginning. Like, what is this? Why am I set aside? Why am I the so-called black sheep? And so once it started showing me, not on a surface level, not okay, that person is jealous or that person is just, XYZ. No, it was on a deeper level. Like, no, they're actually bound to the beast of Babylon. No, they're actually, their sexual energy is being harnessed, is being used. And so they're trying to attach that to you through that karmic relationship. Like, it was all types of different
Mm,
messages that would come through that
entanglement.
was like, when I tell you it was deep type messages, so that by the time I started speaking about it openly, I was even shaped like scratching my head, like, are people going to actually understand how deep this really goes? You see what I'm saying? But I
Right.
had to come forward with it. And so it's not really something that I wanted to gravitate towards. When I initially started doing my readings on my other channel, Shavai Zayn Spiritual Counselor, I was doing the regular readings. Okay, I guess I should be speaking about Aquarius this time. I guess I should be tapping into Geminis this time. But it was nothing deep. My
Right.
spiritual team was like, "No, you're ready for the meat. You're on the surface right now. We need you to get to something deeper." And my spirit was calling me to dive deeper because I'm an investigator as a Life
Yeah.
Path 7. That's in my nature.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go down the rabbit hole. I wanted to see what was beyond the surface. And so my spiritual team started giving me those downloads, and it went beyond. Like, I would do readings on. I did a reading on so-called Jesus. Okay, I wouldn't
Hold
just
on.
no, I wasn't just reading about people's family. No, I was reading like what took place at that time. I wanted to know. I wanted to go.
Oh,
Yes.
that's interesting. So, would you mind sharing?
Oof, if I can even remember the details, but what it did was it made me recognize that it was all a ritualistic sacrifice. That's
Mm,
what really came
okay,
out.
hold on. Hold that thought. Because I
Uh,
did a duet with you. Or actually, I did a podcast when the whole thing with Billy Carson came out.
mhm.
And you did a message to Billy Carson, right? You
Yes.
made a video, and I did it. I had that. I featured that video on a live that I was doing, and you said something powerful. You was like, Billy, let them have their sacrifice. Let them have their human sacrifice. And when you said that, I was like, "Ooh, wait!" And so So now that you said that you did a reading on that, but the way you presented that was in a way that like you gave me the mindset that we all think that God sacrificed his only begotten son, this and that and the other. But when you really start to unpack this thing and all the symbolisms that was done, and it's a form in cannibalism, right? When you
Mhm.
look at when
Oh,
you look
yes.
at what's really going down with this vampirism, drinking blood, eating flesh, while he's up there, they stab him on the side and all the blood, all this kind of stuff that they do. So, just to piggyback off of that with you, can you please elaborate a little bit? What did you mean by this message when you was talking to Billy Carson in regards to um about this
Let
human
them have their
sacrifice?
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yes, because I mean, if you, I don't know if a lot of you all are aware of that particular debate, but they was putting strong emphasis on wanting to prove that yes, we did sacrifice him. Yes, he did exist, and yes, he did die. That was the message.
Yeah.
But years ago, I did a message called "Christ was a ritualistic sacrifice." That was around the time that I was doing readings on Jesus. And
Mhm.
it was revealed to me that they used the sacrifice of what some might know as Yeshua. I was shown that if this was a man, a melanated man, that he would have been killed. This was a melanated man that had a lot of spiritual wisdom,
Mhm.
right? He was a walking Messiah full of wisdom, just like many of the melanated men are today, just like many of the women are messiahs, teachers, master teachers. He was
Right.
one of those.
Right.
They took him, they killed him because he was speaking something that went against their rules and
Right, like
regulations
they
at
do
that
it now. Yeah.
exactly, and doing what they would
Mhm.
consider to be alchemy, teaching melanated people how to
Mm.
utilize their natural powers. And
Mhm.
so they used him and they siphoned his energy. But not
Mm.
only did they siphon his energy when they killed him, I don't know
Mhm.
if I can say that because I don't want to tag your channel.
We can
When
say other line, but I think he removes but go ahead, we ain't gonna get into the politics, but
when they
I see
murked
what you're
him,
saying.
when they
Yeah, they
murked
murked him.
him, okay. When they did this so-called sacrifice, it was
Yeah.
shown that this was a ritual. Like they literally did a ritual to siphon his energy, to take his powers and his gifts, but they would then change his face. They would then change his appearance
Right.
because he was
Stolen identity.
powerful and people respected him, but they needed you to give that respect and that reverence to someone that looked more like them, not someone
This
that looked like him. So they would then siphon and channel the energy of one that would be this Messiah, right? And no, I came to the
this
realization
sound
that
like destiny swapping, what
destiny
they call.
swapping for sure. Yeah, that was
Mm.
that was probably the first, one on record, of
Ooh.
destiny swapping. So
Right.
they took his image and they gave it to, European. And so now you would be giving all of your reverence and your prayers to this particular deity that they've created. And they're pulling on your energy, just like you were speaking about earlier, siphoning your energy.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was shown to me, like I did a reading on the church to see what was happening within the church, what was happening to the women versus the men. Like I was reading about everything, but this particular thing about so-called Jesus or Yeshua, it really showed me that this was deeper. It was far deeper. So to eat of the flesh and to drink of the blood is also a part of the rituals. That's also a part of the rituals. It's literally spell
Mhm. To
work that's
keep it
being done
going.
over
Uh-huh.
the masses. These are spells.
Yes. To
And
keep
so
the
if
party
my
going.
spiritual team, they also showed me that when you talk about the curses, because it took me back, and I think this is why I had to take this pathway of being a Hebrew Israelite, because what they put strong emphasis on is the curses of Deuteronomy. Strong
Duh.
emphasis on the curses of Deuteronomy.
Yes. Deuteronomy 27:28. I know what you're talking
Yes.
about. Mhm.
And when I awakened, I realized, hold on, a curse. What is a curse? A curse is an incantation. It's a spell. It's speaking something over someone in a way where you want to harm them. So I'm like,
Right.
hold on, you telling me the Most High is up here doing spell work against
See,
against?
when you begin to dig and you question, you find out some things and then you put two and two together,
Oh
right?
yes,
You get two and two together and spell work has been done from the beginning on us to
yes.
sever us. Very interesting. Very interesting. So, when you found all of this out, as you investigated and you came to the realization of what was really going on, how did that change you? And how has all of this shape and mold where you are now with your practice, where you are now with your spirituality, where you
Yes.
are now with whatever it is that you're doing with all of these things that they say we're not supposed to do? How has it helped you? And by walking away from that, what have you learned from this?
It's empowered me tremendously because now I realize that the same tools that they was using against us was always for us, but you know, they turned it
Where's
into
my
something
buttons?
wicked,
Where's
right?
my buttons? Hold on. Go ahead, because I got some effects, but I ain't gonna play
Yes,
with
they definitely turned it into something wicked. And so now I utilize my tools. I just go with whatever I feel intuitively guided to do. I connect with my ancient self. And I come
it.
into
Okay.
remembrance. It's like I was talking to you before about the pine cones, it's just
Yeah.
particular things that I just feel drawn to do. And I have no shame in it. But it really taught me that a lot of our people, they've been so blindsided and so caught up and wrapped up in this web of the matrix that the fear that,
Mm.
okay, if I step outside of this and if I try something different, if I learn something different, just like the young lady was saying in the initial clip, I'm going to go to hell. So I know that my purpose is to show people, to pretty much remind them of the power that they possess and to understand that alchemy, you are the alchemist. You are
Yeah.
alchemy.
Right.
Especially as a melanated being, your melanin is naturally doing alchemy every day,
You
just
better
without you
tell it.
even doing anything consciously.
Okay.
Your
That
melanin is
lady knew it. Who wanted you to wrap the money in the black and
yes.
sponge yourself down? Hell yeah, she knew that shit.
Yes.
Yes.
So, it's like now I fully embody it and I fully embrace it. And it has changed my life in tremendous ways. But I always tell people, it's all about using things from integrity. And
Right.
a lot of people are afraid that they're going to welcome in demons or low vibrational energy if they tap into particular things. And I tell them, you have to understand your own intentions. If you're going in it with the intention of becoming a better version of yourself, then you can't welcome in something that can harm you. You
Right
are
on.
you're a spirit. You are a physical being. You are a spirit having a human experience. A spirit
Okay.
having a human experience. So there's nothing in the spiritual realm that can conquer you because you are also a spirit. So you tell that thing to stand down. You see what
Okay
I'm
now.
saying?
That's right. I
So
say.
you got to know the power that you possess, especially when you have that divine connection to the highest source. I don't allow anybody's deity to cut off my connection to the highest source. So I don't fear alchemy. I use it and I teach people how to tap into their own abilities. I tell them, what do you feel intuitively guided to do? I'll give them some tools, but I always tell people to go with what you feel guided to do. And that's the best alchemy because
Indeed.
there's no rules.
Right. Right on. That you know what? I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I really hope that's helping some of y'all out there to realize that listen, the things they keep away from us is for a reason, right? And we think from all the things that's been happening to us, let's just say for the past 500 years, because that's well, no, I won't even say that. Maybe 250 years ago, this was a totally different realm over here. And we were of the earth. We worked with the earth. We knew how to commune with our ancestors. We revered them. And if we look at the decline as us as a people, it's because we severed the connection to our divine power for a religious doctrine. And the reason why I named the show what I named it today is to really talk about those of us who had the courage to walk away from that and follow that spirit from within, because that's what it is. These when you talk about voodoo, hoodoo, and things of that nature, these aren't like doctrines that you can find that are written. These are ways of life. This is like a culture for us, and it has so many different facets to it. Like I said earlier, whether we was pitching pennies or carry shells or throwing bones, whatever the case, we've always had those ancestors or the elders who knew how to speak a language by reading nature,
Mhm.
right? And then when we came up with the cards, that was just another form of divination for us to really just to channel what's in us. And it's being reflected through the energy of our hands by showing these pictures, right? Because we're visual people and we learn through the pictures and each picture and the colors, and they all mean something. And we were able to connect to get the answer to the questions that we were looking for. So, Sister Zayn, man, I appreciate you coming in, sharing. Stay on the line. I want to introduce y'all to another sister. Listen, this sister blew up TikTok, y'all. You know, we from the TikTok family, many of us. We were TikTok was for the outcast of Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We wasn't really making they wasn't really appreciating the information that we were bringing, and the algorithm was really set against us. It wasn't really for us. And so when TikTok came around, many of us found our voice. Many of us found our niche. Many of us found our tribe. And we started connecting to each other's by the thousands, some of us by the hundreds of thousands, where we weren't having that opportunity on these other platforms because of the algorithm that TikTok had that was different from American made platforms. TikTok's algorithm at the time, now something different, was created in a way to connect you with like minds, whereas the algorithms of some of the American made platforms was the antithesis of that, where it connected you with the opposite mind, and it liked the drama that it ignited between two opposing concepts. And so it was always a heated thing going on. It was drama. Facebook, I can't stand Facebook, mind you. Instagram, not so much, but these were the platforms where there was a lot of drama. Whereas TikTok gave an opportunity for us to find our soul family. So I ran across this sister. She used to be making these clips. These, by the way, and she was going ham on a couple of people. Don't step to the sister left. I'm gonna just let y'all know right now. You don't want to step to her crazy because she keep it cock on deck. Now the sister would drop so much knowledge on numerology. She used to rock the 444 around her neck. I was like, okay. And she used to. I remember one time, one video I saw. She went outside her backyard and she was filming this orb she was like, oh, and the way she was talking to the orb though, she was like, oh, so you just gonna fly by here? Like, I don't see you. I remember that. I remember that when I saw that. I was like, okay, now she's attracting the extraterrestrial energy. Then she started talking and breaking down hoodoo. And in a way that I was like, oh, she's talking like how grandma and them used to talk. Like she's really breaking down that old ancient science and connecting back to the ancestral realm. And the way she connects it on a metaphysical, the way she defines it and corresponds it and correlates it with everything metaphysical. She got a style of her own. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the one and only, my sister Yaya. Welcome to the building, Yaya. You are live, direct, and in the building. Come on in. That is like super loud.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you here. I appreciate you for being here. What's happening, Yaya? How you doing today?
Nothing much. I am wonderful. I cannot complain. It wouldn't do no good anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, we talking this old time religion thing, right? We tapping into the
Hey.
ways of the ancestors. The sister Zayn was talking about, Sister Shavai was talking about how the things that she went through brought her to a connection of defining her tools and her spiritual power. All right. And I want to ask you, because you like got the scientific mind, you are full of information. You be breaking down numerology, everything. What guided you along this path? What made you walk away from whatever? Because I know we've all started out in traditional religions. What made you make the
Yeah.
break and go the other way and start embracing these tools that you use today?
Well, I could say, yes, I definitely was forced into religion like many of us. I can remember being 7, 8 years young in the church. And I'm just asking questions like, what are they doing? Like, what is, when they shouting and things like that? why I gotta give my $2? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put my $2 in that collection plate. I want to go to the store and buy me a pickle. You know what I'm saying? Like, why I gotta put my money in this church? Why I gotta do, I'm questioning everything. Now, mind you, I'm 7, 8, so I'm getting popped. Shut your mouth, girl. You don't question Jesus. I already knew right then and there something was off. I'm like, hold on. I can't question Jesus. I'm questioning you. I'm asking you. You the one got me in the church. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not questioning Jesus. I'm asking you. So I knew that a lot of the things we were being taught and told was just that. It was literally things that were being passed down that our ancestors didn't have a lot of the answers for because they was forced into it. And I learned that later on. But at the time, I could tell something wasn't right with the religion. But of course, I had to go along with it until I was of age to get myself up out of that situation. But being in the church, I saw so many things. I saw so many levels of evil. Women busting out my mama windows while we in the church, and these women that's in the church. And it's just like a lot of things turned me away, So my head has always been on a swivel from an early age, but I heard Sister Shavai say, the crust was still in her eyes. The crust was in my eyes too, as with a lot of us. But when I wiped my eyes clean, I was out of there, and I never looked back. I could see the light, never looked back.
So what were you more drawn to, right? Because I know you talk about. There was a video that you put out when you was talking about how our ancestors were always connected to these certain techniques that they did. Right? I remember you put out a video and you was like, what does it mean? What do you do when somebody sweep over your feet? Like, what do you do to the broom? Right. And so I was like, so it was interesting because I was looking at the comment and they were like, boo, 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 boo. I was like, damn, like this is a thing here. So what made you really like dive into understanding what that was about, and what did it do for you as you tapped into that?
So, I've always been a hoodoo girly. Like all of my grandparents, well, 3 out of the 4 are from Georgia. So, a lot of my roots are from the South. Even though I'm from Connecticut, I grew up north. I'm an up north girl. However, I knew my roots was in the South. And with that being said, my grandmother from, one of them was from Americus, Georgia, and the other one was from Waycross, Georgia. So when I say the South, the country, I mean the country, right? So they brought those traditions to the North. And one day I'm sweeping my floor and my grandma just happened to be right there and I swept her foot. I didn't know why I got backhanded. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what's going on? And she like, girl, you want me to go to jail? I said, how you gonna go to jail if I just swept your foot? Like that don't make no kind of sense. So that was my first introduction of hoodoo, right? And these are things that people don't realize is hoodoo, but it's everyday things that we do or everyday sayings that we say that we don't technically understand what we're saying or doing. But these things have been around for ages. So, just like if somebody passes away, you cover the mirrors up. Because it's believed that the spirits get trapped in the mirror. So it's a lot of. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, you froze for a little bit, but
I was frozen.
I was gonna ask you, like, people heard of voodoo, right? And when we think of voodoo, we think of dolls, pins. You know how Hollywood has put it, right? But when you hear hoodoo, that's totally different, right? From hoodoo. Can you explain to them like what exactly is hoodoo?
So hoodoo is pretty much a combination of, we took things from voodoo. Of course, voodoo is mainly West African originated in West Africa, but different parts of Africa as well. But we, from the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of ancestors came over here, but a lot of our folks were here already because we did not come on those slave ships, of course. But with that being said, we took a lot of the traditions of what we did or what some of our ancestors did in Africa, brought them here. And so what happened was along came Christianity, and we had to start putting all of our stuff, hiding it with the things that we was doing in church. So that's how a lot of things got intertwined with hoodoo. But as far as, hoodoo is originated mainly in the southern states of the United States.
Right.
And so that's what separates it. And it's also a part of folk magic, it's conjure. Whereas voodoo is more of, they consider it somewhat religion based.
Okay.
In some aspects. So hoodoo is more so for the folks, it's folk magic. It's us, it's
more
bloodline.
practical.
Right.
Practical application where you
it's
actually
in the blood. Yeah.
Hey, yes, ma'am. It's in the blood. So you saying this is coming. So you were introduced to it from your grandparents, right?
Oh,
the
yeah.
line of mothers, right? And so as you got older and you started to, I guess come into things on your own, what
Right.
made you want to actually start practicing this for yourself?
Ooh. I would say I was tired of being angry.
That
I
ain't
didn't
a
want to
black
keep
woman.
lashing out. I don't want to keep lashing out in the ways that I was, because it wasn't working in my favor. And when I realized, like, you could just use the elements to your advantage. You do know that, right? Like, one time spirit literally spoke to me, because I'm using my anger in all different kind of ways. And when you start projecting your anger and energy in ways that you shouldn't, it's going to reflect in your body physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Right.
And so I knew I had to find a different way. And usually it's some form of trauma or something. It's usually something that pushes you in a different direction from where you've been going, right? And so at the time, I remember my brother, he was shot in his neck in 2004. And I was angry, and rightfully so. Like, I wanted to get them, like, listen, I wanted them out of here. That was my train of thinking, like, they gotta go. But that wasn't doing anything for me. It was keeping me stagnant. It was keeping me in a low vibration. It was keeping me in a place where my life wasn't really going anywhere. And so I started taking it back to what I knew, because, like I said, I grew up in this. I grew up watching my grandparents do certain things. I grew up, watching spiritual baths and protection rituals and things of that nature. So I'm like, you know what? Let me take it back to what I know. So I just went and start getting crystals. I took it slow. Start getting crystals. Start getting candles. Speaking into the candles. Keeping them crystals on me, taking my spiritual baths. And I started noticing some change. But then I started, doing the candle magic and doing my different chants. And now I'm really noticing some things. And so I'm like, okay. And then I realized, when people wrong me, and it was like I wasn't lashing out anymore. I was taking it to the altar, right? And I was watching spirit work for me without me having to lash out the way that I
have to do
was.
a thing, honey.
I'm like, hold
You had
on.
your team.
Yeah, I
You had
didn't have
your
to do it the
team.
way that I was
So,
doing it.
now let me ask you this. So when you were faced with certain circumstances and things, and energy started happening, did you have to go get a book? Did you have to go learn something? Did you have to go get a teacher? Or was this just something innately in you, or you can hear what to do? Like what guided you
I love
towards
this question. I love it. I love it. I love it. Because everybody who in the chat who know me, the first thing I'm gonna tell you is I'm not a fan of saying, okay, go get this book. You are the book. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe, don't get me wrong, books are amazing. I got my own ebook, so I'm not saying anything about books. But what I'm saying is, when we watch babies, when we watch nature, do you see them with a book in their hand? You don't. They come out and they know exactly what to do. Why would we be any different? Why do I need a book to tell me how to be? Why do I need a book to tell me what morals I should have? Or what's right from wrong? Because who's determining that anyway? Whoever determined right and wrong? Did we ever ask that? So I've never been a fan of saying, go get this book, because I know the soul knows all. I know everything I need to know. There's nothing you can confirm for me that I don't know myself. So nah, I don't, the books are amazing, don't get me wrong, but you are the first book. You got to learn how to confirm for yourself.
Yeah, to confirm for yourself. Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you started cultivating this yourself, right? What were the things that you were drawn to, or what led you down the road that you were on? Let's say someone wasn't feeling well.
Mhm.
Were you hearing what to do? Was your contacting you? Because many of us do. Some put up altars to our ancestors, right? And
Mhm.
those ancestors that were benevolent to us, right? Who we knew
Right.
loved us or granted new things. Could you hear their voice talking to you, telling you what to do? Or was it your voice talking to you, telling you what to do?
I would say it was both. Because my grandparents had passed on, and
Mm,
so I could definitely channel and hear their and feel their energy. But the moment I will tell you this, the moment when I realized my power for real, like I always knew I was powerful, but the moment I realized my power for real was when I took a spiritual bath one day, and I put a little bit too much hot water, y'all. Don't ever do that, okay? Mixed it with that salt. Your girl passed out when she got out. Like I passed out,
wow. Well,
okay?
you gotta learn through
Don't do that.
experience sometimes.
Listen, experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
But
You won't do that shit again.
in that moment, I heard me, and my voice was like, "Wake up." It was subtle. It was like, "Wake up." And then it got louder. "Wake up." And then it got louder. "Wake up." And I'm like, I woke up and I'm like, that was me.
Mm,
That was me. That was all me.
wow.
So every time people was talking about, I heard God, I heard this and I heard this voice, I had to tell myself, okay, that energy, that God that everybody's speaking about, that's me. That energy,
Ashe.
of course,
Indeed.
there's a source from which we get
Of
our information from, but
right,
ultimately, the
right.
guiding force, the guiding light is me. That's me. But religion teaches you to externalize everything. Religion
Mm,
teaches you that's Jesus, right? That's
the
God,
Holy Ghost.
the man talking to you, right?
Wow.
And that's when I woke up from that slumber. That's when I completely woke up, because
Mm.
you could have one foot in and one foot out. I call it quarter woke, right? You got a lot of folks that's quarter woke. You still talking about Jesus and heaven.
Oh,
You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? He
yeah,
did it for
yeah.
me. He
Him
did
and
it
it,
all.
yeah,
He who?
yeah,
What are you
yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Energy
I
don't have
say,
no
yeah.
gender. So
Mm,
when I really, really woke up from the slumber, that's when I realized who I was, how powerful I am. And that's when my whole perspective about myself completely changed. Um,
wow,
I was never a person who could turn on a camera or even sit here on a podcast and talk without my voice trembling, because
wow.
I was not confident within myself. It was in
Mm.
that moment that I said, oh, I know hands down I'm powerful. I
Yeah,
woke
you woke
myself up. You
yourself
know how they
up.
say he woke you up
Yeah.
and
Yes.
started you on your way? I woke
Right.
myself up,
Damn.
placed my feet on solid ground, just like they
Mm.
say he placed your feet. That was me. That was me.
I
And I
say,
have no
there you
shame in my
go.
game saying it. You
See, the
know?
whole thing is about you, and I think people don't understand that, right? So the
Right.
swapping, what Sister Zayn was talking about, how when they talk about Yahshua Jesus, the story and the channel that the sister you received, and how this was much deeper than what we know, because the stories are always personal. It's about you, but they put it in third
Right.
person. All these different people where
Mhm.
you're. It's not a reflection for you. It's something outside of you. So when it's something outside of you and you're putting your attention into that and your energy into that, that now you've turned it. It's harvesting you. So
Yes.
it's interesting because it seems like we all get our awakening through some form of close, either near death thing or a trauma or some kind of crisis, because I think that's something kicks in, that instinct. It kicks in, that innate ability for you to really go in and depend on yourself to get you out of it. Because everything around you is just cloudy. It doesn't sound your vibration is your gauge for truth, right? If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. Right? If it's making you feel uneasy, it's not right. You have to trust that. And even when your soul is always over you, watching over you. It's always there for you. And it's going to let you go as just far enough before it taps you. And then you have to realize at the end of the day, it's you. It's you saving you. And that's the test that we're all here to uncover and unpack, is finding that divine God self in you. And the reason why I tacked these three systems on there is because it's us really relying on ancestral energy, innate energy, instinctual energy, and just utilizing the tools that surround you, which is nature, right? Everything, all of this stuff is, whether it's fire, the element of fire when you light in your candles, that's nature. You taking a spiritual bath, that's water. You dealing with the crystals, that's earth, right? Everything, breath work, meditating, breathing, it is all in the realm in which we exist in. And that's where all the power lies. I was talking to a sister today, shout out to I Am God Frequency. Like, we could be as spiritual all day, but we are on earth in this body. We're in the physical material world. So the spirit is what generates it. It's what powers it. But at the same time, if you don't infuse it with the material physical, you're not under. That's alchemy, right? That's how we alchemize this process. So heck yeah, man. I really appreciate that you sharing that, because when we talk about these things, people get a misconception of it, and they're not realizing that um these are tools that's been used throughout the ages. And we could go through all different countries, all different parts of the world, and they're using it in their own way too. They call it something else, right? People in India will tap in and they do it somewhere. People in China tap in and they're doing it somewhere. People in Thailand, wherever on this earth, people are connected to this planet, and they're utilizing the tools of the planet to manifest, to resonate, to make anything happen for them in this physical reality. Many people are not on their knees all day praying to entities and beings outside of themselves to save them from whatever. They have come to realize that the power is from within, and you got to save yourself. And sometimes when you understand the power of nature, you understand the power of astrology through timing, you understand the power of every crystal, herb, whatever it is, resonates on a frequency. You can align it in a certain way and manipulate it to either clear your path or clear things out your way, right? To activate the dream state so you can see what what you've been missing, right? It's all there for you. And our ancestors knew it, and our ancient mothers reveled in it, right? And knew it. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So where you are now, where are you now in this walk, sister? Like, where have all the things that you've experienced from coming up as a youngster, questioning things, getting chastised for the thing, turning and then not finding your way and being angry, because we all been through that, because we can't figure shit out, right? We haven't learned the discipline in it. Now that you've older, mature, you've disciplined, and now you know how to utilize these tools. How has it changed your life?
Whew, so much. I can give you a story. So I know we was talking about how usually it's like a traumatic situation. I gave y'all one. And the thing about awakening is you go through multiple phases of awakening, right? And so that was one situation. The next situation, it usually comes when you're going through a traumatic breakup or something like that. And that's what happened for me. So I can remember I was with my kid's father. We was together like almost 12 years. I thought my world was shattering. You know, sometimes we can't see the bigger picture. We think it's over. We like, oh no, like what I'm gonna do? We were supposed to be together forever. When really that was spirit protecting me from that devil, from that demon. That was spirit, right? But I couldn't see it at the time. So I can remember being on the floor, on the ground. I mean, crying. I mean, bawling my eyes out. Like to the point where if I look back on it now, when I look back on it now, I'm like, girl, get your ass up. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm embarrassed. Like, but I had to go.
Hey, we all go through that. Yeah.
We go through it. And so while I'm down there, I heard myself, if you want to call it spirit, your higher self, whatever you want to call. I heard clear as day. Get your ass up and adjust your crown and remember who you are.
Okay,
I said,
yes,
and I got my ass up and I adjusted my crown and I remembered who I was because what? I know you're not down here crying over somebody who got 2 garbage bags of clothes. Get up. You hear what I'm saying? And so it was at that moment when I said, you know what? You gotta love you. That's the whole problem right here. This is why you down here on the floor thinking you about to die because another person felt like they wanted to do you wrong. Let them leave. Let them leave. That's the blessing right there, right? I couldn't see it at the time, but as I started further in my journey, I started realizing like I am the tool. I am the powerful one. I am the one who literally is going to shift the whole perspective for a lot of different people. Again, I couldn't see it because my voice was so shaky. I wasn't confident. So I started building that self-love. I built my own altar to myself so that I could give myself the love that I was missing, right? And that's what I did. I started loving myself so hard. My walk started being different. My look completely changed, right? I lost 100 and something pounds. I had to shed all of that dead weight, right? Damn. My glow came back. I remembered who I was. And I stepped into who I was supposed to be because I was so timid. Not even just timid, because you never really could play with me from when I was small. But I'm talking about to the point where I'm expressing myself with my throat chakra. I've always been a teacher, but I didn't know that I could be a teacher in this way and impact this many people. So I kept getting messages from spirit to say, I thought this message was for my children though, because, you know, at the time it was Musically, it wasn't TikTok. And that's when all the kids was making all the dances and my kids, they in the house, they propping the phone up everywhere. I mean, I'm walking by, I got my towel on, I see their phone propped up. I'm like, won't y'all get on there and do your own videos? You up here watching everybody else, not knowing spirit was talking to me. Spirit was telling me. And I'm telling my girls, like, hey, y'all need to get on here and do something, you know what I'm saying? Do something, have fun, but stop watching everybody. Stop being, you know, a follower, be a leader. That was me talking to them, but that was spirit talking to me. So sometimes spirit will come through and give you a message, and you think that message for somebody else, and that message for you. So one day, spirit came back. See, spirit is very subtle too. It's not going to be no, I'm not going to force you because it's free will, right? I'm not going to force you. I'm trying to give you this option, right? So spirit came back and said, the whole time I've been telling you what to do, and you've been telling everybody else. And I never forget it. I pressed record one day. In the first video I did, I said, do y'all know we've been celebrating the new year wrong? That was the first video I ever went viral on TikTok. It was the first video I did, and the first video went viral.
Yep, it was waiting on you.
Spirit was like, I told you, like this is what you're supposed to be doing. And so I knew that from that point forward, I had to keep speaking. And as I kept speaking, because if I go back and look at some of my old videos from my previous page, if I could, I probably would like crawl under the bed or something, because you know, you just start, I probably was still a little timid.
Right. You don't know how this thing is gonna
So
turn out. You're right.
you don't. And I just, I kept speaking, but of course I started speaking too much. And we do that sometimes because I don't just deconstruct religion. I have a whole deep thought channel. So I break down
Right.
systems, complete systems. I mean, I talk about everything. I know how to decode with my eyes closed. I could decode anything. It's nothing you can really get past me. And so I started decoding, but I was talking too much. So I got banned on TikTok. First ban. I was distraught because I finally got up to like 44,000. I was like, I thought I was doing something. I'm like, yes, like I'm here. I've arrived, Banned. I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. Spirit said, you what? I said, I'm done. Spirit said, no, you not. And so I'm like, I don't want to do. I'm crying. I don't want to do it no more. They don't want me on here. I can't say what I want to say. Spirit said, pick up that phone. And you're gonna do it again, and you're gonna do it bigger, and you're gonna do it better. And that's exactly what I did. And so where I am with this journey is just enlightening people every single day. I'm waking people up one by one by one every single day. If I could just drop a nugget, plant the seed, it's gonna grow later. I know that. Because it happened to me,
That's all you can do. Right. That's all you can do is continue on this journey and plant your seed. Reach one, teach one. Reach one, teach one.
Absolutely, I say.
Listen, with that being said, I got another guest I want to bring on. Let me tell you something about this sister here. This sister, I ain't gonna lie. She kind of creeped me out first couple times now. I was like, she starts out, hey, my beautiful people, and then she go in. Now, I think the first video I saw was she was talking about these crossroads in certain parts of Georgia that are haunted. And I was like, in Columbia, South Carolina. Now, I think I crossed over there one time because I used to travel a lot. And this sister's a diviner. She's a channeler, I would say. And she channels these energies and she does celebrities. She be peeping into people's stuff and telling it and all kind of information that she's been dropping. And I found it quite intriguing. So I started following her and listening to some of her channels. And I'm like, damn, this sister might be on to something here. So I want to bring on to you, Sister Tammy, the Voodoo Queen. Welcome to the stage, my sister. Come on in here, Pisces, and start bringing this information, this energy. Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong button.
I can't hear you. Mm-mm.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Sister Tammy, welcome to the podcast. Listen, y'all, if y'all ain't up on Tammy, the celebrity channeler, this sister be dropping a lot of information. You fearless with charm. You know what I'm saying? You got this charm about you, got this innocent about you, but you look a little deeper in her eyes. Y'all might be in trouble. But you had said something the other day. You was dropping something about TikTok, all right, and about retinol. And so you went in and you dived in. There's a couple of videos I really want you to tap into because you said something. I think the last video you did about this AI, you tapped into that, and that did something to me because it moved me in a way because when TikTok came back on live, it felt different for me, right? And I was like, this shit don't feel the same. Something about this a little different. And when you and I had always felt that they were scanning us, right? They would, especially when we use filters and shit, and I'm guilty of that. And I was like, I wonder what they're gonna be doing with this. And when you came out with that video about when you dived in, you did the channel and you start seeing this being and how they were doing this, manipulating energy or basically harvesting energy, and he was watching people in their homes, and how they're utilizing that to maybe how can I say this without saying this? You compared it to what happened in Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know what I'm talking about? So,
Right.
but before we dive into that, because I was dying to talk to you about this, and I'm gonna save it for the show. But before we get into that, tell the people who you are, a little background about yourself, and what you do, Miss Tammy, the Voodoo Queen. Come on in here. Let the
All
people know
right.
what's up.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel honored. So yes, so I am an initiated voodoo priestess. I deal with everything spirit, everything
Mm,
spirit. Living, the dead, anything to do with spirit, I'm gonna handle it. I'm gonna
oh
read it.
shit. Oh shit.
I'm gonna channel it.
Yes, ma'am. So you said you were initiated.
Yes. Probably for about 3 to 2 years now.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a history in your family? Is your family is this in the bloodline?
It's in the bloodline. It's in the bloodline. So basically, it took me doing a little research because I'm from the South and because I grew up in the church just like everybody else. We were
Right.
taught we can't talk about this, we can't talk about that. Ever since I was a baby, I've had vision. My mother said I used to scare her. She used to have to stop what she was doing because she could tell I was really talking to somebody. So,
Mhm.
I remember growing up having bouts of crying because I'm like, um, don't be putting people in the ground. I would just come out of nowhere. Like, you ain't supposed to be burying nobody, that makes them sad. And my parents would be like, that's not true. You don't know nothing. I was like, no, that's you're wrong. That's not true. And I would have these episodes. So then as I got older, I started having visions. I
Mm.
started seeing. And plus, I'm around family who always talked about this, but yet they had one foot in the church, but they still
Right.
talked about it.
Yeah.
So I got like in middle school, that's when we finally got heavy in the church. And then that's when I was taught, don't nobody want to hear that. We don't do those type of things. You know what I'm saying? So even though it was still in me, I kind of was quiet about it. But this is when like my visions, my work in the spiritual realm amped up even more. But I had to keep it to
Mm.
myself. So,
And
I
this is
just
why
got
you were young growing up? This is a child?
a child. And again, I know it's in my family because we used to have like round table discussions. I used to sit down,
Mhm.
listen to them talking about, well, I seen such and so, and they talking about dead people,
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
just taking it,
Exactly.
taking it all in. And my grandmother, who I take after a lot, she can actually see them, and it's only like a small, like 1/4 of people that can actually see spirits with their naked eye. A lot of us see with our third eye.
Mm. Right.
So, she can actually like see them. So, we having conversations and all that kind of stuff like that. And she told me, when I got older, she said I used to tell her when I was younger who I used to see, she, just tell me to be quiet. But she told me she was proud of me for taking this path because back in the day they would put you in an insane asylum. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If you
Right.
talked about these things were talked about in private.
Right.
So I remember 16 years old having this dream that followed me all the way up until I got into my late 30s, early 40s. And it was then when I realized what I was supposed to be doing. And like I said, I'm from the South. So I always equated it with hoodoo because I didn't know my research. When I thought about voodoo, we always think about, what they tell us in Hollywood.
Right.
And we know it's starting in West Africa and, you got to be Haitian, all that kind of stuff like that. Well, when I started doing my ancestral worship, they started having me do research and I started learning things. I said, hold up, I deal with more of the spirit, and voodoo means spirit.
Mm.
So even though my family does both, my spectrum is more so on the voodoo side. So,
Okay.
that's what I tapped into more. And, a lot of people have the misconception that someone has to initiate you. 9 times out of 10, you're self-initiated through the spirit. And I have
Yeah.
spoken to people that come from Africa, and everything is done through spirit. It's very rare that a person can initiate you.
Right. Right. The spirit chooses you.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And they
Mhm.
will train you up itself.
Exactly.
Yes,
But mind
I'm
you,
quite aware.
when I learned about it, I had access to the loas when I started my journey at 11, 12 years old. That's when they started letting me go into the spiritual realm. But because I wasn't brought up in it, I didn't know I was in the church. I had to reteach myself everything, and everything started becoming clear to me.
Wow.
So the more I taught myself, the more that I understood my visions, the higher I elevated. It's a gift that was given to me to do in particular.
Wow.
So the more that I do my gift, the more I'm able to see, the more I'm able to do effortlessly.
So when did you just decide to just jump in full time with this? I mean, as a child coming up with these gifts and not having anyone to express it to, they're suppressing it. But then at the same time, they're sitting around the table talking about it.
Yep.
And I'm sure that led to more curiosity for you to really tap into that. But as you got like older, what made you decide that, okay, I'm gonna do this is my gift and this is what I'm gonna pursue and I'm gonna just delve into immerse myself in this energy.
So in 2013, that's when I realized I didn't know it at the time, but that was when I realized my spiritual awakening had came. And I was pregnant with my youngest daughter. And I've always had rough pregnancy, but this pregnancy right here just took me through the ringer spiritually and everything. And I took it as I need to get back in the church closer. I need to get closer with God. So I became director over the youth service, you know what I'm saying? And started going to the church more, but it was still something that just was not, fulfilling me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't fulfilling me. My boyfriend, who was my husband at the time, he had kind of went like far left and he was, listening to Bobby Hemming, he was getting into, he never been a churchgoer anyway. So me, him bringing that stuff into the home, I'm like, oh my God, that's the devil attacking me. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, I can't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
I'm in the church and they saying this and this and that.
Witchcraft, honey.
Yes. So so when you have a spiritual awakening, like we said, you go through things. The birth of a child can bring upon a spiritual awakening as well. So, I was going through so much at the time that, I just felt like that everything was going wrong because we was living together. We wasn't married. I was like, I'm still not finding what I need. He talking something different. So I just had to separate myself. Here I am with 4 kids, 1 a newborn, and I leave everything and go with my mom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And call myself starting over. Well, time goes by, that's not working out. So, we end up getting back together and, okay, we're good. But I'm still like, after I had my child, I'm having anxiety. I'm just, every day is a struggle. It wasn't postpartum, but it was just like, I was like, okay, but if I keep reading my Bible, if I keep, doing this, I'm going to be okay. One day I was getting ready for church. And at this time, I had a falling out with my home church. And so I decided to leave. So me and my grandmother were trying to find another church. And as we was going to churches, I just, I thought I had found one. And one day they just started falling on the ground, like, like they had the Holy Ghost. And I was just sitting there. And I was thinking, what the hell is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, it just went and sit around me. And me and my grandma looked at, she said, you ready to go? I said, let's go. Let's go. That was the end of that. So I'm like, okay, now I still got to, you falling on the ground. I'm like, that don't even look natural. And it's funny because when they got finished, the pastor, they're doing benediction. This church is full of people, big church. He stops, points dead at me, about to come my way. And that's when my grandma said, let's go. I didn't even let him get to me. We walked out. I don't care what nobody thought. I didn't care what nobody thought. Yes.
He recognized you.
Yes.
That's what warlocks do, and they heavy in the church.
Very.
They the pastors. But
exactly.
Anyway,
a lot of clients come from dealing with warlocks that I have in the church. I get that a lot. So back to square one, trying to find a church. So my mom invites me to my home church for friends and family day. So I'm getting me and the kids ready. And every time I try to get up, I just get weak. I just kept getting weak and weak and weak. I couldn't get up. Like, like my legs were shaking. Just I had this weakness. And I said, what's wrong? I'm trying to get ready. I would sit down, get up, sit down, get up. And then finally I just sat down and I just cried. I just cried and cried and cried. And that's when I realized, I said, I don't want to go. I don't want to go. I'm not doing this no
Wow.
more.
Yeah, your soul was
And
crying.
my husband, he was there for me. He understood what I was going through. And when I said that, it was like I had my strength back.
Wow. Just like
I had
that.
yeah,
You
just
broke
like that.
you snapped out the spell.
I snapped out of it. So then I started going through the angry stage because I started doing research. I'm like, they done told us all of this and this and this. So
Now we
I'm
get
going.
pissed off and
Yes,
shit.
I'm like, man, and I'm still thinking like, well, what am I supposed to do? So as I got away from it, I started doing ancestral veneration. Everybody always talked about my grandfather. I never met him. He died before my father was born. So I already had like a pull towards him. And just one day I said, I called upon him. And then that was it. When I did that and he showed himself, everything just came in the fruitation.
Wow.
And I did a couple of years of that. And I always knew I wanted to help people with my gifts. And so I say in 2021, that's when I started my business and I decided to go full time and just dive all the way in, not knowing what I was going to get out of it. And plus, what pushed me to it is I got sick every time I was supposed to be doing something. I would get sick out of nowhere. Like, I'm a diabetic and I had my last child and I wasn't a diabetic. And then all of a sudden, I was such a diabetic where like they couldn't figure out why my numbers were never coming down. And that's when I had realized I didn't want to go to church anymore. And then I got better. Then the
Wow.
last time before I started my business, I got showered one day, legs were just numb. Couldn't feel my legs. Went to the emergency room, couldn't find nothing wrong, but they found that I was anemic. And when I started taking my iron pills and I decided to dive into it, I got better.
Wow. Something was
So it was like
draining you,
they,
sucking your blood, all kind of stuff, giving you sugar diabetes.
yes.
Shit.
So it was like they wasn't letting me get away from it. And that's when I dove all the way in and I've been going ever since.
Wow. Feeling better, huh? Feeling good, looking good, huh?
Yes.
That's what it listen. You know what? This when you face the fear of crossing over into your path and your power, it changes your whole life. It changes your whole life. So I was I was never initiated, even though I had high priestesses in in those religions or those how can I say paradigm schools of thought, voodoo, want mommy Wata want me to get initiated. I don't want anyone to have any spiritual power over me, right? I didn't want to get baptized, right? I didn't even want even when I was in church or going to school, I went to Catholic school from the 5th grade to the 12th grade. And we had to go to mass during school and all kinds of it just seemed weird to me, right? And I just never could really get into it. So like everyone else, as I got to be a young adult, my thing was getting into astrology. And, oh, that was that's devil work, this and that and the other. But I'm 17 in the cards, but I wasn't really in I was in the 52 deck cards at young. And I would just shuffle, 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 flip cards, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And I was able to see patterns, right? I have a Mercury retrograde. So I can always see things clearly, especially during a retrograde, and I have a thing for patterns. So when I started looking at charts and looking at the connections and looking at the aspects, the charts will pop out at me, and I would able to read and make the connection. Then I started connecting them to everything else because astrology is so many layers to it, right? It's not just oh, like I'm a Cancer, I'm a this, I'm a that. It can go down to your body shape, your face, it can connect to your desires. It could connect to everything esoterically. If you want to connect it to the angelic realm, right? You can connect it to archangels, Laos, whatever it is, Orishas. You could connect them to all the planetary energies. So when I started tapping in like that, crystals, knowing what herbs resonate with this planet, what does this, and then making my own concoctions and creating my own sacred geometrical patterns with crystals and realizing that well, damn, I'm shifting things. Things are changing. And so now I'm looking at religion and I'm saying, ain't nothing shift when I was doing all the things you all were telling me to do. I felt in prison, right? I couldn't, I was suffocating, sick, right? Not looking, feel like something is feeding off of you, draining you. You know, you just drawn in and you constantly living in fear for hell, fire, and brimstone, right? Because you don't want to go to hell. But you in hell the whole time. You in hell the whole time. I'm gonna unmute your mics. Yaya, unmute your mic. Shavai, mute your mic. So as you all step into yourself, your divine power, you start changing your life around. And then not only that, you're tapping and helping others change their lives as well. It's so empowering when you embrace your divine self.
Yes.
So y'all want to tap in, chime in on
And
this
I
conversation?
did want to speak on what Yaya mentioned earlier about creating an altar for herself. That was very powerful because when I have people come to me, I always say, your alchemy should first be directed towards yourself. You
Indeed.
can transmute anything about yourself. There's nothing about you that you have to just sit with and say, well, this is me. I'm afraid, or I have lack mentality, or I have insecurities, or I have anger issues. That you can alchemize that so fast, but it's just a matter of knowing how to use the tools. But I also say our alchemy is also meant to be directed towards the powers that were. To shift,
Right.
we can shape that energy too, you know, and
I like that.
even like with you speaking on like the baptism, a lot of people when they were asleep went to church and you got baptized because you thought, I mean, I was one of them. I think I did it twice. But when I woke up, I realized, hold on, I have to do alchemy to break that contract that I made when I allowed them to submerge me in that water and mimic putting me to death and bringing me back to life under this energy of what they call Jesus. Not only that, I realized I also had to do alchemy to break the agreement that I put out there when I said I was willing to um, embrace the sacrifice, saying that I was okay with human sacrifice.
That
Like
part.
many of us have celebrated that. We're okay with human sacrifice. So when they're doing it behind the scenes, what can you really say about it when you're walking around sporting something that represents human sacrifice? I'm talking about the
The
necklaces, like
cross. I feel you.
right. So it's like alchemy is very powerful and it's meant to be used to even break chains off of your ancestors that they wasn't consciously aware enough to break off of themselves. You know, so I've used it in a lot of different ways. And so I just wanted to put that out there as far as how broad this thing is. It's not a small gift. This is a massive tool that can be used. It's like it can set off nuclear missiles, or you can use it for something small or minute, but it doesn't matter because it's going to work.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What you got,
So
Yaya?
I love what you said, Shavi, and I'm gonna piggyback off of that, just talking more so about, you know, tapping in with yourself and how in turn that heals the collective. Because a lot of people ask, like, what can I do to heal the world? Well, how you gonna heal the world? You not healed. You know what I'm saying? You haven't even worked on you. You don't know who you are, but you want to go straight to healing people. You know, it does not work like that. So that's why I always tell people when I meet with people, when I'm doing videos, your altar should be to you first, because not only should you be venerating yourself, respecting yourself, you know, honoring yourself, but you should also be able to identify tricks to spirits before you even try to identify with your ancestors. Because if you don't know how to do divination, you don't know who you are, how you gonna know who your ancestors are? Anything can pose, any entity can pose as your ancestor, any negative entity. And if your discernment is not on point, you gonna try to connect with that ancestor, right? So learn who you are first before you start trying to tap into deep into this spiritual world, because this is who we are. But a lot of us have to remember who we are, right? It's us going back to who we are. It's not something new for us. So that's another thing I hear a lot of people saying, oh, you think you woke, oh, this new age spirituality. It's nothing new age about spirituality. Okay, we are
Right. What's
spiritual
new age
beings.
is
We
these
have
new religions
spirits,
that you
which
got on
Exactly.
spiritual. And so everything that we are doing is literally things that we have done eons before now. And so we just taking it back to where we should be. But you gotta tread, I'm not gonna say tread, but you don't want to just dive deep into this thing without knowing who you are first. So I just wanted to add on to that.
And I just kind of want to piggyback up what Yaya said with that. When you're talking about trickster spirits coming in. So I try to tell people all the time, you're absolutely right. Ancestral worship, that's not nothing that you rush through. People always like, well, I want to teach this, I want to do that. Teach me how to do it. And I'm like, that's fine. I have a class that I teach, but I tell them, I said, take your time. I said, because the best thing that you can have is your intuition. If you cannot decipher that that's your ancestor, you're going to, because entities, spirits leech on others all the time because they don't have nobody venerating them.
Mm-hmm.
So, they need that energy. They need to be fed in the astral. They're going to come in and do this and do that. I said, so if you don't know your intuition, if you have not elevated enough to make your intuition to where you can trust it, you need to take your time and wait and before you call upon anyone. So that's so true. I can't stress it enough. You know what I'm saying? Because people get themselves in a world of trouble when they're not taking the time out to, do it properly, and wait, for their intuition and wait to build that relationship to understand what's going on. They just want things, and they think that's all it's about. It's so much deeper than that.
Yeah, because they're hopping from a lot of people when they finally remove themselves from these religions, they're still taking that religious mindset into the next thing, right? They're trying to integrate the conditioning to their liberation, and it just makes them confused. And then they're trying to, and then you got some, right, that will cannonball dive into this a new science or a new system. And like you said, Tammy, they're not being careful because the spirit world is nothing to play with, right? It's like nature. It can be very dangerous, right? If you and you doing stuff, and there's some people that do the shit, right? They gotta go buy every crystal. They gotta go buy, and they wear all right, and they wrap in their hair, they costume for them, right? Not some crystals together. And especially if you don't know your natal chart, let's say and you rocking bloodstones and moonstones and wondering why you always attracting drama, because the frequency that those stones resonate on is resonating on the alignment that you hold, and it amplifies. So now attracting this energy, and then you'll say this is of the devil, not knowing, because you don't know yourself, right? You don't know that you are walking, living, breathing planetary energy manifested here in the flesh, right? And you're carrying that frequency with you. And then everyone's talking crystals, and instead of you doing some homework about which crystal resonates with you, you go get all the crystals and you putting them on. And so what you're doing is activating all maybe the challenging aspects in you before you start healing from those aspects in you, learning yourself. Because I call it a cheat code. When you know your natal chart, it's your personal cheat code, because no one is born on the day you were born, the time you were born, in the place you were born, and even from the parents that you were born. Twins aren't even born at the same time. They got to take one out at a time. So that means you have a unique stamp. So when you take your first breath, you snapping a snapshot of the heavens above you, and you carrying all that frequency with you. So you are walking what we call a walking transit, right? And so when you come across someone who may have an opposition to you with certain planets, you're going to feel that energy between each other. It's an energy exchange between each other. Now, if you're not mature enough to handle that, you'll be fighting with that person, right? Or you may be getting in a relationship with that person. And then that fighting, the F and F thing, yeah, folks got going on. They either fighting or they effing. they fighting or they effing. It's because you have this energy that's making you clash, and it's a fine line between anger and sexual energy because it's ruled by the planetary energy of Mars, right? So you don't know if you dive into systems because you don't know yourself, you can't find yourself. You're so used to looking for something outside you, right? That you don't want to put the work in for yourself because you're used to just confessing and that's it. You used to saying, "Well, Jesus, forgive me," and that's it. Don't hold you accountable. You are no longer
Right.
accountable for you, right? So you passing the buck to the entity that's supposed to cleanse and clear it off, and then washing you with the blood.
Mhm.
So all that to say is that I think those some religions I think are way more dangerous than us really finding out who we are and connected to these systems and utilizing them in a way that brings benefits to us and heals us with our family. And all the different sectors that we're talking about, whether sister here is channeling, um, you doing the practical application and decoding, Yaya, Shavai with the cards. This is all a part of our religious systems and divination, which if we didn't follow the spirit from within, we didn't follow the God self in us, we wouldn't be tapping into our true powers. And we would be like puppets, kind of like everybody else. So yeah, that I kind of wanted I just wanted to chime in and say that
Yeah,
um
can I add something as far as
sure.
a lot of people when they first come on the spiritual journey, they're interested in going straight to the third eye. That's the first chakra that they want to open up. And I
Right.
always tell people that's the worst thing you can do, especially if you already embody the energy of fear. Most people are already rooted in fear, especially if you're coming out of certain doctrines and belief systems. And even if you didn't come out of necessarily the church, media, movies, everything is pushing that energy of fear. Even if it's just dealing with work, your everyday life, your bills, fear that you're not going to be able to pay your bills, fear is all around you. So when you have that energy and that's you're seated in your root chakra, your lower chakras is what you're functioning with, and you want to come into spirituality and go straight for the third eye, you're in for a rude awakening because what's going to be revealed to you is everything that reflects that fear that you're already embodying. You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's very important to come in and start doing the work. You got to shed all of those layers. And the layers don't just start with this lifetime. The layers can take you back to past lives and deep-seated generational wounding and all types of traumas that go beyond what you would even understand. So it's like it's an ongoing process of healing. So it's like you don't want to rush the process of getting to that place of being able to see through your spiritual eyes. But when you do, when you after you've done the work and when you finally get to that place where you can see, then the experience becomes that much more like it becomes magical, damn near.
Right.
Say it's
That's
magical.
Mm-hmm.
true magic.
Yep, it sure
Indeed.
does.
Yeah.
And I
Indeed.
try to tell
Indeed.
people all the time that you can't, like, if you don't do the work, you're not going to elevate. Like, we never have a ceiling, but if you can't never get to the next step if you don't do the work. There comes a time in your life, when it's going to be easy street for you because you have done the work. But I try to tell people, don't never think you stop working. Don't, especially if you want to keep going. You got to keep doing it. And I say fear is natural, but you don't let fear stop you. And that's when you just have to get to learn yourself more and keep going. Because people
I
let fear stop
say.
them a lot.
I say.
Yes.
So I got another sister in the back. I want to bring on. I see you back here. I don't see your picture or anything. Ty, you in the building? There she go. Listen, now hold up. Now this is the right here, y'all. Let me tell y'all something about this sister right here. I know Ty for like I think back in Facebook groups. I was in a couple of astrology groups. This sister right here, writer, producer, astrologer, rich auntie vibes out here. This sister right here is multi-talented, always bringing a lot of information and heat, metaphysical consciousness. She's my fellow Cancerian sister. I want to introduce everybody to my sister Tai Phoenix. Come in the building, Tai. What is good, sis? How you doing today?
Wow. Oh my gosh. Can you see me? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you good. We got you. We got you in the building. What's happening? Come on now. Don't be shy over here. Don't be
I hope
shy.
I hope I have some level of vibrance to that you can see to me because I'm really I'm not even gonna cap. I'm exhausted. But I've been watching the show. I was watching, from the beginning and it's giving me life. It's giving me
That's
life.
what's
So I'm
up.
getting the
That's
energy
what's
back.
up. That's what's up. So, the topic of today, we're talking that old time religion, how we broke away from traditional religions and
Mm-hmm.
embrace these things such as hoodoo, voodoo, divination, astrology, and how it impacted our lives once we broke free from those shackles of some
Mm-hmm.
of those mainstream religions, and how it changed our lives. It not only changed our lives, it helped us change other people's lives as well. So I'm just want to bring you on. If you want to chime in, you got a story to tell, an experience you want to share with us. All right, let us have it. Let us have it. What you got for us, sister?
Well, it's interesting. Everyone's journey is different in how they broke out of the traditional, as we say, organized doctrine.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was raised Catholic.
Mm,
I was raised as a Catholic. As a matter of fact, the church that I belonged to was called a Black Roman Catholic Church. That's
okay.
a Black
Okay.
Roman Catholic Church. I was like, okay.
You was
As
at
I
the
got
top
older and I thought,
church.
yeah, like
That's the
when I
head
when I
church.
got older and I thought about that, I'm like, Black Roman Catholic. That's different.
Mhm.
And I went to Catholic school, so I wore uniforms. I'm talking about like from
I listen.
kindergarten through 12th grade. Well, ninth to 12th grade, I went to Episcopalian school. And
Wow.
Episcopalian sect of Christianity is like it's a more flexible. Actually, it's all from the same Christian
Same
conferences.
thing.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like Episcopalian, Lutheran, they all broke out of, the conference where they all broke out the different sects of Catholicism, really.
Yeah.
But so I say that to say that in terms of organized religious doctrine, that was a big part of the early portion of my life. I went to religious camp, so I memorized all the books of the Bible. We had to, and I remember at that, it was an overnight camp. So we got saved there. And I remember that was my first introduction with learning what being saved meant. And I just was so scared. I remember I ran out of the chapel. We would have chapel like every night. And I ran out of the chapel because I was thinking to myself, oh my God, my mom, my dad, everybody's not saved. When I learned about what being saved was, I
Yeah.
started getting scared because I was thinking about all the people that I loved in my life that weren't saved. And,
Mm.
just, I'm not
Now
going to
now
recant.
you depressed.
I'm like, oh my God, they not saved. The people I love is all gonna burn in hell. You
Oh
know
my
what I'm
god.
saying?
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
to just from overnight camp, Bible camp to Catholic school to completing all the sacraments, whether it was confession, communion, I did it all. You know what I'm saying? And to
Right.
think of how distant I am from that now, um, in terms of being a member of an organized religious group. Um, no, I don't belong to any particular organized religious group. And that middle period, because you said, how do you go from that to, talking about the chart, your birth charts
Right.
and and
Right.
but then really bridging the gap just from all the years of knowledge and experience, where I was the type to ask the preacher. I was the type to ask the Catholic priest questions
Right. Yeah,
about
me too.
the crucifixion and the resurrection. I'm asking questions, and he kind of looking at me like, "You asking too many questions." So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Go back over there and take your communion.
exactly,
And
like he like, I can't even
recite
really
this
answer this.
verse. Yeah, here. Go
Yep.
ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you right. So you can kind of imagine, like, you talking to a Catholic priest and you asking, some esoteric questions
Right.
in, this religious setting. So all of that to say, after years of awakening, like my former, like, I was married years ago. I haven't been married for years, but I was married years ago. I was married to someone who was a FOI, who was a member of the Nation of Islam. So we go from Catholicism to
Islam.
Islam, to moving away from all organized religion. I'm like I know it's like kind of like making like a fast
No,
food
it's
version of
cool.
everything. But now bridging the gap between the role that astrology even played in biblical studies,
Mm.
12 apostles, you know what I'm saying? 12 houses in
Well
the
done.
zodiac. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. The
I'm
correlation
just
of it all.
Yep,
Mhm.
I'm just blessed. I feel like I'm just blessed at this point to have a mind and a spirit that's open enough to see the truth,
Mm.
or the different expressions of the truth,
Right.
and all the different avenues where that truth can reach me, and where I can make a connection to other people. I find, star in the crescent is Islam, but star in the crescent is sun and moon. That's
Hello. Yeah, hello.
you-
Venus is in there too, if you look close. That's another stuff. I want you to be on another show. Like I was trying to save you. Like I was like, okay, Ty, I got plans for a lot of people. They just don't know yet. But I really want you to I want to dive deep in astrology. There's a couple other sisters that I know. And I'm like, I really want us to unpack this thing because this was a craft that we used, the ancient mothers used to align
Mhm,
temples with, and some of the brothers, the ancient brothers too, like Benjamin Banneker, master astrologer, aligned
mhm,
certain the Washington DC. If you ever looked at the design of Washington DC, right? I lived in DC for a little bit, and it's a diamond shape. It's a 10 square mile city. I know I'm preaching to the choir. I talk to you, right? But it's a
no, I,
10
I I live in the DMV, so
Oh, you do? I didn't
mhm,
know that. I didn't know that. Well, so then right? So it's a pyramid shape in the way that it's aligned and how the streets run parallel to it compared to everyone else. So all this to say is that they took advantage of the esoteric sciences and they brought it down into the physical realm to make their layouts that harnesses energy with their symbolisms and the monuments and all of the different things, the White House, the way it's laid out. It's not just laid out there just for design wise. They're
yeah.
harnessing energy of ley lines by utilizing the power of astrology. So when these religions tell us that astrology is demonic, it's of the devil, but yet and still your forefathers constructed the layout of their major cities by utilizing this science. And you're supposed to be a Christian nation, even though we know that's all cap too, right? But all this, the hypocrisy of it, all of this to say, the things you say are demonic, you're utilizing to build your cities. You're utilizing to build structures, to harness energies along ley lines that are aligned to certain star systems. So when we tap into it, it's taboo. But those of us who have the courage to step out of the fear and into our power, then we can utilize the same energy to reflect or resonate on whatever it is that we're trying to make happen in our lives. And when I start tapping into astrology and really doing the deep dive and really
Mhm.
uncovering and then looking at the other systems and merging, doing things with most astrologers. Remember back in the day, there was a big thing about sidereal and tropical, right? It was like you sidereal, and there was this
Yeah.
thing. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna merge the two. And when I started doing that, the magic happened, right? Then I understand
Mm.
sides of me that it was missing when just looking at the tropical. The tropical wasn't answering all my questions. And
Mhm.
when I started looking at the sidereal, it started answering a lot of questions that the tropical didn't answer. But I was like, But the tropical is still it's doing a lot for me too. So when I said I started doing alchemy with astrology, basically.
All
And I
day,
merged the
astro
system.
alchemy.
Hello, right? And it answered even in certain sciences that we do. I'm sure you ladies can attest. There's those who were in control, or the gatekeepers of it has their set of rules and regulations that they say that you must follow. But in your heart of hearts, you be like, nah, I want to do it this way. No,
Yes.
how could you want to customize it for you? And the gatekeepers of powers that be, they even want to put restrictions on the shit that they saying that we ain't supposed to do. So
Yeah.
this is it's a self journey. This is something self realization. This is something that you're gonna have to realize that you can empower yourselves and you can customize anything on this planet and tailor fit it for yourself to empower you. Go ahead, Shay.
And you just used the term you said is astro alchemy. What I
Yes, ma'am.
find to be interesting about that is that I was talking to someone about this because I have a friend that reads natal charts. And I said to her one day, I said, I don't read natal charts. I'm not that well at doing it, at least consciously. I have never studied doing it to the point where
Not
I'm a
yet.
professional. But
Mhm.
I said, I can see myself utilizing this chart and putting in my house whatever I want in my house and removing from that house whatever I don't want from my house. And I was talking about doing alchemy in order to shift the energy. So I find it to be interesting that these things, they actually exist. It exists within us. We created these things, but they're already out there. But it's like you just come into remembrance and it's like, oh, so that's really a thing. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's just, but it's
Yeah.
in our DNA to know these things just naturally. And then you come out with a term for it. So I'm like, that's amazing that it even exists in that way.
Can I respond to Sister Shavi, Shai?
Absolutely.
Okay. Um, yes, astro alchemy, that's like a concept that I guess that I just apply to the idea of you have a birth chart, like Shah was saying, when you took your first breath, that snapshot of where the planets were placed at the time, that is the chart that is a visual depiction of your destiny, your challenges, your talents, your lessons, your proclivity to meet certain people, the places you're supposed to travel. Everything can be reflected and is reflected in that chart. This conversation we're having right now can be pointed out in all of our charts, like, which I will be very transparent and say that the deeper I've gotten into my understanding of astrology and its relationship to alchemy, it makes me question the extent of free will. I mean, if you're walking down the street and you see a $20 bill on the ground, did you choose to be on that street at that time and encounter that money? Did you put that money there? No. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
That's
you have
deep.
a cousin named John and a cousin named Will, and you bump into John and Will both at the corner of John Street and Will Avenue. Like, and you all run into like synchronicities.
Synchronicity.
I'm
So
not going to say that I don't.
are you leaning more to this is designed as opposed to
I'm the more that I have become very immersed in my understanding of astrology, and what I have seen, I think you make a choice, but then I think you don't. Like, I think
that's
you
a real
don't. You
Libra.
really
That's a
don't.
Libra-ish kind of answer there, though.
Okay.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead, sis. Go ahead, Tam.
About that. Okay. So I love astrology, natal charts, but that's not my thing. But from the way y'all are talking, I kind of equate it to where I help people with their Akashic records. And I feel like that you do have a choice, because a lot of times when I'm looking into the future, I can see where someone is supposed to be, but they're not doing their steps to get there, so they can't see it. So to them, it seems like it's impossible. But like you said, when you put in that alchemy, like everything that I'm doing right now, I said I wanted to do this. and I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing it.
Wow.
So people have to. So when I look in the future, someone's Akashic record, you do have a choice. But are you doing yourself? And then we have to go through the steps of, okay, well, you need to let this go. You need to do this when I'm doing their readings. And then they can be like, oh, okay. Because they'll always say when I mention something that they're supposed to be doing, well, I thought about that because you're supposed, it's in your record.
Wow. So let me
Your
ask you,
chart.
let me ask you, Tammy. So do you think that we all have a destiny, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to choose whether you fulfill it or not?
Yes. So I always tell people nothing's going to go right until you step into your destiny. When you step into your destiny, it has to align. But
Mm,
if you don't step into your destiny, meaning like you're not paying attention to the signs, you're not doing what you're supposed to do to get there. You know you're supposed to be doing X, Y, Z. You can't even get a schedule together for the day. How you know what I'm saying? How are you going to get to where you need to be?
wow. So
So
Ty,
you have you can choose that.
let me ask you this. Do you think that, let's say, you have a destiny,
Mm-hmm.
and do you think, like, if you make certain choices, eventually you're gonna get there anyway? Right? You're gonna are you is it something that's going to cause like synchronicity to realign you back? Let's say if you veer off, right? One day
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to meet up here and this and that, like your soul contract may have you here, but you don't get there. Something either detours you, you change your mind, you don't the free will of you not going there, you want to go over here, but eventually, do you think you'll catch up to your destiny anyway, or do you think, like what Tammy says, that you have a choice because you may have changed your mind and you didn't take action to embark upon that?
Well, I think that the entire concept of manifestation, as it has been popularly explained um, to the masses, which is that you have an idea about something that you want to attain, something that you want to achieve, or something that you're supposed to embody or become. And whatever that is, if you intend, I guess, with enough intensity or follow specific steps to make that happen, that the options are just available to you. I'm a firm believer that it doesn't matter how much I admire Michael Jordan and the way he plays basketball. If I don't care, I'm not here to play basketball. I can write 1,000 affirmations about how I want to be a world-renowned NBA player. I can chant, meditate, and say I'm gonna. It's not in my natal promise.
Oh,
So with
right,
that,
right.
but I think people are very They're like they're misconstrued about that idea of what you can manifest in terms of just what's available to you and what you have
Right.
the ability to
Yeah.
control. And so, with that being said, um, for example, if you have Venus in Cancer, that could be. I once worked I worked at restaurants. I have Venus in Cancer. That is working at a restaurant. Like Venus is food,
Right. Yeah.
you know.
Right.
Um,
A
and
hotel.
it's in the 10th house, so it was
Right.
professional. Cancer, you know, I'm working with families and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's so many different expressions of your
Right.
placements is what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
there's not one way. But I feel like the chart always plays out.
Itself out. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it always. So with that being said, um I
Do you
don't think
agree?
you have this wide lane where it's like, well, I might do this and I might do this and I might go here and I might go there and it's all correct. No, we
Really?
don't, because the universe would, to me, the universe would be completely chaotic. These laws are very
Yeah.
organized, even though it appears like there's just, I know there's organized chaos, like an oxymoron, but these
Yeah.
laws are very deliberate. If
Mm.
not, it would, imagine imagine if people could do whatever, go wherever, be whatever. Imagine what that would look like.
Right. But you know what? I don't think they do anyway, right? Because let's say Yaya, sister Yaya, she has a certain placement. She may not be interested in doing this, that, and the other, right? And
Right.
Shavai, right? Because like we could talk about everyone that's on here right now and their what their signs are, And I bet you they're all doing their nature, right? Because your sign, your planetary energy triggers your nature, right? And you'll be attracted or drawn to it. Um, and whatever that may be. So let's say some of us who got scorpionic energy, right?
Mhm.
We might, we want to dig, right? We have a propensity to really want to, we have a curiosity that we want to know the raw truth, right? We want to dig, we want to get to the truth of the matter. And we're not afraid to go into certain dark places to get there, to uncover that, right? Whereas someone that may not have any energy in Scorpio, they may have it, let's say in Libra, they ain't thinking about Scorpio shit, right? They're not thinking about it on that level. Like they coming, their nature is drawing them to the things that's more Libra-ish, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
and it's like, so I think, what Tammy is saying about, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But if you listen to what she said earlier, like they wanted to, right? They weren't supposed to, right? Or they didn't, they may veered off or whatever, did something else, but that desire was there. They just didn't act on it, right? They didn't act upon doing it or going there or something like that. So I think we are all genetically, like cosmically coded to walk in our divine purpose, how it's designed for us to be. But whether
Mhm.
we do it or not, um, let's say there's people working on the job for 50 years at the post office, right? But they know how to draw, but they work at the post office for the check, right? And they're very
Mhm.
artistic about how they deliver mail. You know what I'm saying? So they're actually did expressing it, but they had this desire to be an artist. And in their home, they got all these murals and these paintings and they got all of this stuff, but they didn't take a chance to make that their purpose, like their number one thing. They focused on survival, but they still expressed that artistic way about them, even in the workplace. So is that still fulfilling your destiny, or is that just, you see what I'm saying? Like, are you walking in your purpose by, you're still artistic, but
Mhm.
that's not how you make your living or whatever. That's not your world, or that's not what you're doing. You're working at the post office, but you still have a desire to draw. You see what I'm saying? It's like
Mhm.
you never really get away from what you're coded to do.
So I feel like your destiny is your wheel of fortune, where you're going to get your money, your fulfillment in every sense of the matter. So if, like you said, you gave that example, even though they're using that in the job that they have, let's be honest. Well, I'm not gonna say everybody doesn't want to work for somebody, but if you could do your passion, your destiny,
Mhm.
you would do it. Like that's the
Mm.
ultimate goal. Because if not, you get in these cycles. You ever heard of people going repeat in a year, down to the wearing the same thing the same day that they wore the last year? You're not
Oh,
doing what you're supposed to be
you
doing. You have to get to your destiny.
that's interesting. I can attest to that before I decided to walk on my purpose, right? Because
Mm.
like my dream, right? Like, oh, I want to do this, always wanted to do this, always wanted to do that. But I've done other things for survival, right? I was in survival mode before I took a leap of faith. And you're right. It felt like I was on this hamster wheel in a way. It's Groundhog Day out here. Like everything, I was on this repeat for years. Like I just kept reaching the plateau, and it's like I think the universe when you reach that plateau, the universe will probably pull a rug from underneath your feet to say, are you gonna keep going forward, or you gonna go back to the comfort zone? You know what I'm saying? And I've done that for years out of fear of not getting a check so I could pay the rent and the bills and this and that and the other, right? I get stuck in that zone. Um,
Mhm.
so that was interesting that you said that. And when I was kind of forced into this life that I'm in a way, because um just a quick little story. I was in Atlanta for about 5 years before the whole Mama T thing, right? And I reached the plateau, and I told you a little bit about it, Shavai. I was like, what's this? What we finna do? And then I had to go through a different series of things to cleanse myself. And then the channeling started coming through. And then I got at the 11th hour and 59th minute, and I had to renew my lease. And all along, I kept hearing the spirit, my inner voice say, don't renew that lease. Don't renew that lease. And then the fear started creeping in. Well, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to live? Now, Ty, the tightest song of what you're saying about destiny, and it's like you don't have a choice. Like this is a true story. This is actually about 2 years ago. So I get cold feet. So I go ahead and tell the people, all right, I'm not gonna renew my lease. I'm gonna move out. About 2, 3 weeks later, I changed my mind. Cold feet. And I was like, I changed my mind. I want to keep my apartment. They were like, oh, we already shit. That's gone. We already rented that out. Now I'm terrified, right? I have to move out. Meanwhile, my progressed moon just is about to go into Sagittarius, right? It's about to my progressed moon is leaving my fourth house in Scorpio, about to go into the fifth house, Sagittarius. And I'm terrified because I'm a Cancer, number one. And so you know how we like the crib, right? We like being at the house. And my moon in the fourth house anyway. So I was like, what is this? No, but the progress moon was forcing me. I had to leave the home. And so not only did I leave the home, I left the state. And then when I left the state, as soon as the progressed moon crossed over in the Sag, I left the country.
Hmm.
And I would have never. And so, in a way, I see what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like things happen to push you into your destiny, right? And some people,
Mhm.
I don't know, maybe they have choices, maybe they don't. But in that case, for me, them choices was removed. Like no, this is what you
Yep.
about to do. And if I didn't know astrology, right, I would be, I would have been like, What's going on? What am I doing?" But when I opened
Mhm.
it up, and I was like, "Yeah, my progressive moon about to go into Sag."
That's right.
And Sag means foreign places. It means travel.
And the
And
moon
it's
means where you live.
in the movie where I live, right? And in the fifth house means like it's supposed to be fun, right? I'm supposed to enjoy the shit. But that 29 degrees Scorpio was not fun, right? So Scorpio is transformation, right? It's when you have to face a death, right? There's something that has to die in order for something to be reborn. And what had to die for me was the fear of leaving the home, right? Fear of leaving the home state or the hometown or whatever it was I considered my comfort zone, right? And I had to face that fear head on as I drove across the border. And I was like, damn, I'm like in Mexico right now. Like, this is crazy. And it was that as soon as it crossed over, I couldn't have planned it any better. Like, I didn't even plan it. It just, I walked into it. So
Mhm.
I see what you're saying in regards to um both of y'all. I see what y'all saying because my choice is to stay because I wanted to stay. I did, and I was looking for apartments and everything, but everything was just the roads was closing. Right, I was supposed to move on. I had to
Mhm.
get out of there.
Mhm.
So I understand about when things shift through through unexpected events, it triggers you to walk in your power because I wouldn't have experienced the things that I've experienced. And for the past year, I wouldn't have known none of this stuff. I wouldn't have met probably any of you that are on the panel besides Ty. I knew Ty for a minute, but just when you let go, I guess for me, I had to let go of the controlling Cancerian grip, right? That tenaciousness, the stubbornness, the thing that we have. The hardest thing for me, Kansas, is to do is to release. And when I finally released that energy and walked into the Sagittarian, my moon's still in Sagittarius. I walked into that it was liberating. It was freedom. I really felt freedom for the first time in my life. So yeah, both of y'all right. Shit,
Hey,
like both of
Sha,
y'all right.
here's
Yes,
the
ma'am.
thing. Even if you didn't know your natal chart, you didn't look at your progress chart,
Right.
that still would have been an event
What happened? Yeah.
that happened. It's not like, oh, well, it only happened because you know how to read progress
N-
charts.
No,
But
it was destined.
it was so what I'm saying when I say that,
Right.
to make that point, I'm saying to everyone, even in the chat,
Right.
if you never read a chart, if you never have anyone else read your chart, there are events that are going to happen. It's just the astrology helped you interpret it. Progressed moon moving into Sagittarius means that my home will now be in a foreign land, a distant place. You're able to interpret it, but it was already slated to happen.
Yeah, honey, it was. I'm wondering
And
what's
another
next.
thing people need to realize too is that when they're seeing synchronicities like the numbers, that's tied into as well. These numbers that you're seeing with your natal chart, the numbers are real life solutions to your problems. And that alone, if you can interpret it and you pay attention to the patterns, you can also get to your destiny. To me, numbers are more important than dreams. They're specifically for you.
The vibrations.
Yes.
That's a fact.
And they're going to get you where you need to go as well. I tell people, even if Ty was saying, if you don't know your chart, people have to start paying attention to their intuition patterns that you see going on. You have to, even if you don't know, you have to take the time to sit down and dissect things.
Right.
And again, it goes back to learning yourself and your intuition. So,
I say. Yeah, you the numbers lady.
Okay.
Yeah, you still there?
I was just gonna say, yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, you're live. Go ahead. You the numbers lady. You be breaking
Can y'all
down
hear
those
me?
numbers.
I think
the
it's
frequency.
frozen.
No, you good. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear you, Yaya. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, when it comes to the numbers, I just wanted to chime in and say it literally tells a story, number one. Number two, it shows you how everything is connected. Literally, everything is connected. You can connect everything through the numbers. You can read the numbers. Once you start interpreting those numbers, they're specific to you too. So this is not something you can go to Google and look and see, okay, what does 444 mean all you want? But that number is coming through at that specific moment for a specific reason for you. So that number is not just 444. It's not going to mean the same thing for me as it does for Tammy, as it does for Shavai, and so on and so forth. You have to know how to interpret these numbers. So, for instance, I could give you an example. The other day, I'm in here having my own personal moment, right? And I'm sitting here doing my divination, asking for clarity. And as soon as I look up, it's 333 on the clock. So it just gave me an answer to whatever it was I was asking. Whatever you seeking, whatever answers you seeking, is going to come through in a synchronicity. It's going to come through in a dream. It's going to come through with your ears ringing. It's going to come through some kind of way. And it ties back to what the ladies were saying as far as your destiny and your path. It doesn't matter which door you go through, right? You think about the doors. It's still leading to the same path. You might take a different hallway, but that path, you're going to be on the other side of that hallway. And you're going to meet right back at that center point, right where you should have been in the first place, as long as you put in the work to get there. So a lot of people, when you feel like your life is in shambles, when your life is not going right, it's because spirit gave you specific instructions, directions, where you're supposed to be going in your life, and you didn't follow that. So now it feels like your world has turned upside down completely. And it hasn't. Right. It's just that you strayed away from what spirit had for you. And so now spirit's gonna tap you on your behind and say, listen, I
Told
told you to
your
go this
ass.
way.
Yup.
You want
They
to
sure
go that
will.
way, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And now you
Mhm.
going to
Yeah, I got
And
my ass
I
beat a
wanted
few
to
times.
Yeah.
piggyback off of
So numbers are everything. Numbers.
uh-oh. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think there's a
Oh.
delay.
Oh no, you're good. It's
Oh.
just a little delayed. Go ahead, Shabby.
No, finish what you were saying. I want to hear you saying numbers.
Yeah, I was just saying numbers literally tie into everything. Like even when you study gematria, you know, that's how I'm able to do a lot of decoding by breaking down the numbers. If something happens, you know, just like I was saying, the TikTok ban happened on 119. Okay, now what is 119? We turn that around. That's 9/11. Anytime 9/11 come around, you best believe it's going to be some kind of significant event. So once you start connecting the dots, this is why I said everything is connected. You learn numerology, you start learning about decoding, you start learning about deconstruction. It just literally ties into everything. So that's why everything I talk about, it seems like I got so many different niches and I'm just talking about so many different things. No, everything is connected. And a lot of it starts with the numbers.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, I just wanted to add, I always tell people, you know, when it comes to numbers, you don't have to be a numerologist necessarily in order to interpret the message. I say assign your own meaning to that number because everything in life to me is one walking tarot card, you know. You can be looking at, you know, this area, this little portion, that little snapshot moment, whatever you are looking at, you can always dissect and pull different messages from anything.
That's
So
right.
numbers also gives you that same advantage where, okay, I'm going to assign that 1111 for me means it's time for me to go left, take a different turn, try something new, you know, whereas for someone else, they might say, well, it's new beginnings, but you don't necessarily want to put I don't feel like anything that deals with spirituality needs to be put into a box because it's not something that can be boxed in.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I understand when you mentioned about the natal charts, it's fixed energy in a way. It sounds like that's what you're saying. It's fixed and it's not, you can't really adjust it. But I kind of feel that the more that we awaken into our power, you know, as divine beings, we are able to alchemize and transmute energy because energy, that's what it does. It's transmutable. You're able to move it around, you know, and to shift it. You can't necessarily destroy it, but you can shift it. So I kind of wonder, you know, do we have that power? I strongly feel that we do, but I guess if it's in your mindset that it's fixed and it can't be moved, then I guess it can't be. You see what I'm saying?
So
Well, I look at it like a toolbox. It's almost like, you know, your natal chart is like a toolbox. So you have been given all the specific tools that you need to execute the storyline and the destiny that you're here to fulfill. And I think what happens a lot of times, you know, in society, we think that we're supposed to all have the same tools. It's like, no, like I know you, sun in Aries, the sun in Aries, Shavi, the sun in Aries, Shah, sun in Cancer, Shah, that sun in Cancer, that sun in Aries, you need that specifically for what it is that you came here
do this
to
lifetime.
fulfill.
Absolutely.
You know, and same for the Venus and the Venus opposite the Pluto or the Saturn square, the Mercury or whatever. Like if you have Mercury conjunct Uranus, you have very forward thinking, advanced, weird ideas, but you are supposed to have those types of ideas and that type of thinking because that's what you need in your toolbox for what you've been assigned here to do for the Most High. So when you get really submersed into your own toolbox, and you focus on your own toolbox, as what did they say in the street? Oh, I drink water, mind my business. When you focus on your own toolbox and make that your business, then you start. That's really where the self-love comes from. Be like, oh my, I know why I'm weird. You know, I got Mercury, like I said, Mercury square Uranus, but I need that. God wanted that for me. You know what I'm saying?
You be able to create your masterpieces with that, right? See, so here's the thing. This is what. So when you said this, Shavai, like you want to move this and this and that and the other, let me explain to you how flexible I am with this. a planetary aspect can mean 1 million things. That means you got 1 million things to choose from, right? Within that jurisdiction. So some say like if Saturn is in a particular Saturn, a lot of people are scared to death of Saturn. Saturn and Pluto. Like those are the bad guys of the video of the zodiac sometimes because the frequency of some people are low. So what you're going to do is activate the low frequencies of that planetary energy, right? But that same planet has high frequencies, right? So now you have a choice. Are you going to activate the low frequency or the high frequency of that energy, right? So this is where you can be flexible and versatile with the energy within its jurisdiction, right? Because everything is placed in a certain way, like Ty said, right? It's placed in a certain way for you. Now, are you going to elevate your frequencies and bring out the best of this alignment? Whether it's a square, conjunction, or opposition, right? Because I have Jupiter in the first, so I'm always going to see the bright side of shit, right? So it's like, I'm not always going to look at the worst scenario, right? Because we all know that's an option, right? That's a possibility. But I can also churn this into something else, right? I can also I got my Mars is square my sun, right? Now I know either I could fly off the handle or I could channel this energy and put in the work, right? And utilize this and go I could take the long race, right? If I channel this energy correctly. It doesn't always have to be a catastrophe, right? It doesn't always have to be blowing up. I can utilize this energy in a way, and then I can look at the other planets that's given that may be more harmonious to one of these planetary energies that's in this harsh affliction to ease up off of that square. I have an option. Well, maybe I can just tap into my moon then, right? So you do have a way to manipulate this chart by tapping into other energies that you have. So you got to just look at yourself as multidimensional. You know what I'm saying? And you can, even though this may be placed like this, you know how many things you could make with oranges? So when they say you got apples, not oranges, right? You know how many things you could make with apples? You know what I'm saying? So you just got to get creative on what you can do and just be like, I'm stuck with this apple. Honey, you can make apple juice, you can make apple pie, you can make
Yes.
apple foam, like whatever. It's just you got to understand there's a million things you can do with that one thing. So now you just have to change your mind to think that way instead of thinking, "Oh, I'm just stuck with this." Some people would or now this is the hack. You have this and somebody got that. And together, when you come together with this chart and create synastry, you can create what we call like super linkages, super aspects, where the two of you connect in a way that you create a whole different energy that you wouldn't be able to attain by yourself, that you can attain with them. So it's just like playing astrological chess out here. Like
That's right.
there's so many dynamic ways and ways that you can really transmute this energy. So I don't think we're ever stuck, right? I don't think we're ever, this is it. This is a dead end. This is this is what God wants for me. God wants to see how creative you're going to be with the tools God gave.
That's
How,
right.
how much you going to tap into your God self out here and create some divine pieces of work. Make you proud because that's me up there, reflection of me. So I was on this mushroom trip one day. I know this is a side note. This is a story. And I ain't gonna go through the whole thing, but I took some psilocybin, first time ever. And all of a sudden the genius started clicking and I started seeing all these equations and the spirit was like, go outside, go outside. I went outside and said, see that star right there? I was like, yeah, it's big. It's like, that's you. Whatever. All this to say is we are a reflection of everything that's above us. We carry it within us. So you have the option to think big and broad as opposed to just limiting your mind to thinking this is all you're in a cage. Don't ever put yourself in a cage. If you want to move something, it's not necessarily move it, it's transmute it.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? And that's
Mhm.
that's your hack for astrology, which is you. So that's my piece.
I see.
So basically, Sha, you're saying that in terms of
I love it.
the
I just want to add
free
on
will.
to
Hmm.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. It's a
I
delay.
was over talking to somebody. I think. I'm sorry.
Now go ahead, finish your point, Ty, and then let Yaya come in. Finish your
I
point and Yaya
apologize.
come
Yeah,
in.
yeah. I didn't see. So I was wanted to be
oh
like,
no, you
that was
good. Go
such an
ahead.
excellent illustration of what you said. So basically, there's somebody right now, Saturn is in their second house, and they're saying Saturn's blocking my money. Saturn is keeping me financially strapped and challenged, right? Then there's somebody else. Saturn is in their second house because Saturn's in Pisces right now, right? So somebody, Saturn is in their second house in Pisces, and they're getting rewards. Right? Because Saturn is also reward. So what you're saying is that there's high vibrational expressions of these planetary energies, these signs, these houses, and there's low vibrational expressions based on the storyline that you're living out, based on your consciousness, based on how you see life and how you're showing up.
Right on.
If Saturn's restricting you, if Saturn is minimizing things in your life, that's based on whatever you need going on in what you've created. If Saturn is rewarding you, if Saturn is giving you acknowledgement for the accomplishments you've attained, that's based on how you've created your story. So I think that's where we get into the astro alchemy. How are you alchemizing your placements? That was key. I just had to point that.
It. That's the whole thing. It's you. You are the key. Where's your mind? What are you resonating on? You keep on saying I'm blocking you blaming Saturn. No, you blaming your lack of discipline. You see what I'm saying? You are resonating on the lead of Saturn, and you're turning it into a burden because at the same time that planet rules greatness and success, as you said, reward. So why can't you see yourself as great and successful? Right? And utilize it. If it's in Pisces, that means you got spiritual power, authority out here. What you doing? You're casting a spell on yourself and you're holding yourself in bondage. That's what you're doing. Right. Go ahead, yeah. You got it.
That's actually a good leeway into you know how I hear a lot of people say I'm cursed or somebody put a root on me or I'm this or that. You are affirming that it's done to you. Me, myself, I don't walk in that energy. Can't nobody do nothing to me that I don't allow them to do. And that is literally how I move about my life and my day. You can't put nothing on me. I'm way too powerful for that. You got to start having that mindset. When you think or you know that somebody did something to you, what makes you feel like they're more powerful than you? That's the attitude you have to get about when it comes to people putting hexes or curses on you. I don't look at it that way. You can't send nothing to me that I can't block, number one. And I'm not giving the energy. I'm not feeding that energy. And this also goes back to what you said, Mama T. You said, I'm sorry, not Mama T. Are you Mama T on here? Or
I'm everything. I'm Mama T. I'm Sha Bless. I'm all of it.
Mama T will be present right now.
She coming and out wherever. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But you said, we're reflections as above, so below. But we also got to understand that y'all are reflections. We all are reflections. Yeah, you are a mirror to me, right? And so this is why I tell people you can't ever look down, or you shouldn't ever look down on other people, because they're literally a mirror for where you were. You may have ascended past that, but that was literally you at one time. So when you start looking at things differently, everything is perspective. Everything is in your mind. You created everything. Everything is you. And it wasn't really like when I really got that was when I, did psychedelics. And it was literally like, I know it was me speaking, but it didn't feel like me speaking. And it was just like coming out fast. And it was like, I created everything. Everything is me. I am everything. It was like literally like talking like that. And I'm like, when I came out of the experience, and I'm like, I really did create everything. Everything that I felt like was a hardship, everything that I felt like, you know, when my world was crumbling down, it was because that was the mindset that I was in. Right. You know? So everything it starts with you. Everything.
Everything. Sure do.
And I wanted to talk about, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sis.
So Yaya was talking about the hexes and the curses. So I get so many people, do I got a curse on me? Do I got a hex on me? You will never believe, 9 times out of 10, you are standing in your own way. So when I channel and when I look into whether I'm doing a mediumship channel, which is really deep, or I'm just doing an intuitive reading, I'll go back. What I see is that now attachments are real, but that's a different story. But when it comes to hexes and curses, I see a lot of things that's in the root chakra, which contains your family, your past, and you know, generational curses. I'm like, well, you know, this, I see that this happened in your family. I see that you haven't release that, or you know, you're standing up. Well, if you want this, why are you doing this? You know, it's you
contradicting ourselves.
Yeah, nobody's put anything, and you know, they're so quick to say, well, you know, I know they doing something on me. The way you overcome that, your vibration has to be higher than theirs. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You can always overcome if you have a high vibration, whether we need to get you some crystals to help you get there or what. But you know, a lot of times you're rooting yourself in things that you can actually change. You can, whether it's a generational curse, you know, get the help that you need. But you know, it's rare. I tell people all the time, it's rare that somebody has put a curse or a hex on you. Now I've seen it, but it's very rare. And most of the time you've just allowed yourself to get on that person's vibration and to let them affect you. And you need to elevate. But people have a hard time seeing that because, again, it all goes back to doing the work.
Right.
Doing the work. They want quick fixes. They don't.
That's what religions do. Religions make you lazy.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. And I tell people all the time, it's better to experience and explain, because when you do the work, you come out better on the other side, and you're going to appreciate it, and you're going to keep going. You're going to love yourself. It's all about self-care and self-love.
I say. I say,
I wanted to say, you know, spiritual warfare, it is very real, though. It's not something that's a fallacy. It's very real. And it is largely targeted towards specific people who have assignments that can awaken many. See what I'm saying? So even with everybody in the chat today, I wouldn't doubt that there was some people that was sending an evil eye in your direction, even if it wasn't people that you knew personally. When we're talking about a system that has a specific agenda, they have the tools of divination. They have the tools of sorcery. They know how to do it all because they took it directly from us, but they perverted it and used it to put us to sleep. So there's always something over you that needs to be cleared, but you don't always want to assume that it's your sister or that it was your brother or your ex-lover. They could very well be sending you negative energy and putting dirt out there on your energy. But I always tell people the only way that it can penetrate is if there's something within you that it actually can attach itself to, just like what you just said. So you do have to have something going on in those lower chakras to actually attract it and give it power. And I always tell people the idea when you keep saying somebody is doing this, you are actually speaking power into whatever they do, if they are in fact doing it. So I say, hey, call judgment upon all of your enemies, known and unknown. Just put it out there.
Go ahead. The word, honey, the power of the word.
Absolutely. Put it out there, and then it's going to hit wherever it needs to land.
Bam. Just like that.
I always say the universe is going to give you what you deserve.
And sometimes the obstructions, or the blockages or the issues in your life, sometimes it could be other people thinking negatively, projecting onto you, but sometimes it's also your own inability to shift somewhere. And your own. I felt like there's somebody in the chat that I don't know why. I feel like there's somebody in the chat that needs to hear this.
Go and tell them.
You are,
Yes.
it's not so much somebody standing in your way or somebody placing an obstruction to prevent you from reaching a particular goal. It's something that you're not releasing, and it's something you're not evolving beyond. It's something that you're not transcending. That could be, I don't know, it could be a boyfriend that you should have been over. It could be a habit that you should have long outgrown. It could be, I don't know. You know your story? I don't, but it's not somebody's keeping me from this. Somebody's thinking this about me. People are always thinking things about, everyone has opinions. Everyone has feelings. And not all of us are vibrating from the highest spaces. So there's always somebody who doesn't feel like you should accomplish something, or feels like you're in the way of them accomplishing something, whatever. But that's because, you know what I mean? That's because they're not evolved. But when you shift, when you shift, when you release, when you shed, when you elevate your thinking, it's almost like a duck on a water on a duck's back. It's not going to be able to touch you.
It doesn't touch
I don't
you.
know if I articulated that well, but
you very well. Yes, we get you. We hear you. You're saying it. I mean, because frequency, wherever you are resonating on, that's what you're going to match. That's what's going to connect. So if someone has that envious, you're going to get jealousy. You're going to get, is the more successful you become, the more that comes with it, right? But you and it's to distract you. So you're gonna have to just be in a position where you're gonna rise so high. And I know that sounds real cliche, right? Oh, just rise above it, and this and that and the other. But there's something to that, because when you raise your frequency, you're actually shifting dimensions. And when you shift dimensions, you're changing timelines. And so now you're about to embark upon a whole nother realm that they don't even exist on. So whatever they're doing, and you're in another realm, it's just boomeranging back to them at the end of the day, right? So once we start elevating that mind, because once you do this, that means you turn your eyes, your focus, from your goal. Now you're on their goal, right? And now you're giving them the power. Now now you've lowered your frequency to match theirs. And this is how now you got an energy exchange here. Right. Now this is how that parasitic energy now begins to feed off of you, because you turned around and made it a plate. You know what I'm saying? So we have more power than we really realize, and it's control, discipline. Shout out to Saturn. Shout out to Saturn. That's Saturn and energy. It's like you got to step into your greatness, and it only works through going through them rings, going through those rings, those karmic rings. Shout out to Shavai with the karmic readings, right? Shout out to Yaya with breaking down and decoding the numbers. Shout out to Tammy for being able to tap into the different dimensional planes and channel these energies and see what's really going on. And shout out to my sister Ty, just all around bringing them lyrics with them beats though. Yo, if y'all ain't ever followed, Tommy dropping some tracks out here. I'm serious. Ty's dope. Like, she dope. I don't know. I'm you know what? So many of us was in the music. Oh, yo, Ty's fire. Listen, she got videos. She be and she sister got lyrics. You hear me? Fire.
Got the EP called Crown Loads coming out.
Go ahead. Tell them.
Got the EP coming out called Crown Loads.
Yo, she's fire. I'm trying to, every time I see, I be like, all I do is put fire emojis. That's all I can do. And I'm like, damn.
I'm fanning out. I'm fanning out for all of y'all right now. Listen, there's no shame in my game. I'm fanning out for everybody. Yaya, Tammy, Shavai. If you ever have the time in life, you go through your likes, and you want to see me. I'm fanning out for, I'm telling you, I'm the big, you are shy. You already know. I just had to put that out there. I love all y'all.
Well, I'm happy to tap into your channel, Yaya. This is my first time being introduced to you. Actually, this is my first time being introduced to everybody. Outside of seeing Shy, I've crossed her channel a few times and I've been following her, but this is my first time seeing you all. So I definitely want to check you out and see what music you have, Taya, because I'm always looking for high vibrational music to get me pumped up, especially when I'm in my spiritual warrior mode and I'm ready to roll up my
I'm
sleeves.
telling you, y'all will not be disappointed with. So this is the whole point of this.
We need the channel, Ty. We need the channel.
Yeah,
Oh
give us the channel.
drop, so I can put this in here, and everybody, the whole point of me putting together the Stella Maris podcast is it's like a round table for these sisters to get together, right? There's very few platforms that will feature all of us, right? And center the energy around what we have. And there's a lot of great sisters out here putting in a lot of great work, been doing it. Go unnoticed, unseen. They're not giving their flowers. And we've been holding it down for a very long time. And sometimes you got to go out here and just build your own, right? You got to build your own platform. And this is the time for divine feminine energy to really, really start balancing out these scales, because we haven't been the center of this movement, right? We've been kind of the sidekicks, or it's a patriarchal movement. You all know how it is and how they see us. You got to look a certain kind of way. You got to be a certain kind of way for them to just glance at you. But sisters from all walks of life have all of this power. So I'm always going to be talking about really all of these type of topics, type of information, and bringing these dynamic sisters together at the round table. And also, I also want to let y'all know, as you can see the scroll at the bottom, we're putting together a Quantum Fest in H-Town, Houston, this summer solstice. It's a metaphysical festival. And all of y'all on the panel, I want to invite all of y'all out there. You're gonna get an inbox with the invitation and what it's broken down to, what we're doing. We're looking for speakers, lecturers, presenters. It's gonna be an indoor, outdoor event. We'll have vendors, everything. I'm gonna be doing a live Stella Maris podcast there with the live audience. We're gonna get more of the heavy hitters that we have out on TikTok. A lot of people don't know TikTok got a lot of heavy hitters, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us, we know them, we follow them, they follow us, or subscribe. I don't even like the word follow. They subscribe to us, the like minds, and we built this community there that is phenomenal. And I keep on saying we made that platform. You know what I'm saying? They was just singing and dancing before, until the metaphysical community got on there and bringing the knowledge, and the algorithm that they have to connect us was just crazy. So it's a little different now, we can tell, but it doesn't mean we still can't connect and take this thing to the people on a broader scale, right? And that's kind of what I want to do. I want to bring this to a broad scale. I want us to go and really put together these festivals with showcasing this type of talent that you see here today, y'all. So once again, I want to thank everybody for joining me on this podcast. And for the closing statements of the show, I want to let you ladies let people know where they can find you, the services that you provide, and where they can connect with you. So let's start with you, Shavai. Let people know where they can find you, the things that if you got a book, you got cards out, like go ahead, promote, let us know.
Yeah, so you can definitely find me on Shavai Zayn, Tarot Investigator. I also have another channel, Shavai Zayn, the Spiritual Counselor. So you can find me on those two channels. I do offer tarot readings, tarot lessons. I have my own decks over here. If you want to know what's blocking you spiritually, you can order my Declare and Decree deck. I have quite a few decks that I've created. I have my book, which is Channeled Messages. I have miniature altars. I do a few things. So
do you have a website? Because I want to put it up.
I'm working on it.
Okay,
I got to get out of that old school mindset where it's like, shoot me an email and I'll just send it to you in the mail. I got to get it together. So I'm working on it right now, but I do offer quite a few things. But yes, that's where you can find me at.
All right. Once again, what's your handle?
Oh, Shavai Zayn Tarot Investigator.
Shavai Zayn Tarot Investigator. Y'all make sure y'all go follow Sister Shavai. She was phenomenal. Like this, I found the sister a couple years ago. I told you, and I was hooked ever since then. And she'd be on point with her reading. So I highly, highly recommend the sister for your services. All right.
Thank
And
you for
next up,
having me.
Sister Yaya, come on now. I know you got a lot going on yourself. Tell people where they can find you, connect with you, and the services that you provide.
Yes, so you can find me. My main platform is TikTok. So it's Yaya's underscore world 777. Same name on Instagram. I am very new to YouTube, but I'm finally on here. So it's at your own universe. And I also have my own Botanica shop. It's ubotanica.shop. And I sell a lot of herbs, candles, crystals, a lot of herbs. Let me reiterate that. I sell herbs, all the herbs you could think of, the
Herbs,
ones that
the
make you feel good
herbals.
too. The herbals, we got cookies, we got a variety of different things. So I also offer, consultation services, life coaching, a lot of different
Awesome.
things. So
What's your website
yeah,
again, Yaya? Spell it out
it's
for me.
ubotanica.shop.
You as in just the
YOU.
letter. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Ubotanica.shop.
YOUBOT. ANICA.shop.
Cool. I'm gonna put this up here real
Your own
quick.
universe.
All right, so y'all make sure y'all go and support these sisters. Make sure y'all, matter of fact, also y'all give your Cash App now. Like, the sisters out here, they gave a lot of information. If you want to donate to the cause, make sure you hit the sisters up on their Cash App. Sister Shavai, do you have a Cash App?
No, not at this time. I'm accepting Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, but I do have it on my channel. If you go and check up underneath my descriptions, you'll see my PayPal link there.
Awesome. Make sure y'all go and hit her up. Support these sisters out here putting in this work. Listen, this is what we do, and this is for us. This is for you, and it is really time that the community we start coming together and really seeing that the talent that's out here, the gifts that's out here, and we're sharing our experiences and what we went through, and many of the same things you all went through these things too. So if you find that you're resonating with one of these sisters up here, connect with them, vibe with them, support them in their businesses because at the end of the day, we're here to help everybody. And as we reach one, we teach one, and this is how we can help change the community one at a time. All right. And Sister Tammy, let us know where we could find you, the services that you provide, and your website if you have any.
Yeah, sure. So my biggest platform is on TikTok. It's going to be Tammy, the Voodoo Queen, VODOU, Queen. And you can also find me on YouTube, Supreme Medium Diviner. The services that I offer, I do afterlife communication, intuitive readings. I do mediumship channeling. I remove blockages, all that good stuff, spiritual coaching. I offer consultations. You can book on my website, Yo So Yo Seek, which is YOSOULSEEK. You can go on Google and put in Supreme Medium Diviner. My website will pop right up.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You have a Cash App you want to share with the people?
I do. It's Voodoo Queen, VODOU Queen.
VODOU Queen. Make sure y'all support, donate what you can to the sisters up here. I truly appreciate it. They're truly appreciate it. And Ty,
It's
come on here. Where your album
it's,
dropping?
hold on.
Okay.
It's D as
That's
in David.
awesome.
You got B. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
my
D
bad,
as
my
in
bad,
David.
my bad, my bad. Let me get this out of here.
Okay. Oh, y'all Cash Apps now.
Let me put my glasses on. Shit, that's the problem. I ass can't see. Spell it again one more time for me, Tammy.
VOD as in David.
Mhm.
OU Queen.
All righteous. Hold on. Let me see if I do this here right. That's the Cash App. All right. Let's see if we go up here. Is that correct?
That's right.
Awesome. I'm telling you, if I can't see a damn thing sometimes. Go ahead, Sister Ty. When the album dropping?
Okay. Well, The Instagram is spelled just like it is on the screen. I don't know if you see it. Tai Phoenix, no spaces or underscores. So Instagram, I'm on there. I'm on TikTok as well, but it's Tai Phoenix 713. And I'm on YouTube as well, but I'm primarily on Instagram the most. I have an EP coming out. It's called Crown Loads. Some of you guys know I do chart readings as well, under my company, which is called Chart Smart. And the Cash App is the same way. But yeah, and the I haven't even announced the release date for the Crown Loads EP shop, but it's coming out the day the sun conjuncts my North Node.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about, y'all. I hope I spelled this right. Hold on. That's what I'm talking. See, this is when you is that your Cash App? Is that correct?
Mine?
Yeah. Do you see it on the screen?
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Okay,
I see it now on the screen. Yep. I didn't see it before. Yep.
Awesome. Look, I'm gonna cop that. You already know. I'm gonna be bumping that joint. That's fire. That's fine. I want to talk to you anyway. I've been trying to talk to you about like, look, Ty, like, look, what's up?
We overdue on the we overdue on the track. You know that.
Overdue on the track. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I'm so excited. But anyway, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you, sister. I appreciate all of y'all for being here, rocking out with me today on the Stella Maris podcast. This is just the beginning, y'all. We cracking the iceberg on it. Cracking the iceberg. We crack. I like to say we cracking the firmament out here. All right. We about to crack the dome. Because it's time for us to elevate, and this planet wants to rise, and it can't rise until we have the energy of the divine feminine tapped in, all the way in. The most of the sisters on the planet were giving our energy away to entities and beings outside of ourselves, not realizing that we're directly linked to Earth in the way that no other is through the mitochondrial DNA. Right? When we connect back to Mother Earth, the Earth responds to us. When we get to shaking, the Earth shake. When we start calling on the winds blow. We could make the weather, we could change the weather. We could, like Mama Zobe said back in the days, we can raise the dead through our voices. We can call on the spirits to come down from the heavens. We can touch and we can heal the sick. All the things that they said Yahshua, Jesus did, where you think he learned it from? When he was in them temples. All right. Where you think he got that information? Where do you think it got that power from? He got it from the divine sisters when he went into Egypt. What do you think he was doing over there? What temples you think he was really in? Learning the master crafts, learning how to take the mud and rub it and put it on the eyes and spit on his hands and stuff. That's our shit. Like he was getting all of that. He was learning from the divine priestesses out there because that's what we did. And we lost our way. So hopefully with the sisters like the sisters that are on the panel, we can help resurrect that consciousness in you that you would directly link to all the stories that they tell, everything that you see, everything that you hear. It's about you. And until you put yourself as the center of this story, you're always going to be food for the gods. All right. And with that being said, thank you all for joining me. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all so much. Stay tuned for the next show, Stella Maris Podcast signing out. Y'all be good. Y'all be great. Don't hurt nobody out there unless they deserve it. You know what I'm talking about? Then you could call Tammy. Because Tammy, you can call Shavai. You can call my sister Yaya. And Ty gonna write a track about it.
Sister Shavai. Yeah. Sister Shavai, I had emailed you like maybe a month ago when I was trying to cash app you and everything. I was trying to get in touch with Sister Shavai, but I was trying to send money to the cash app. And now I got the cash in because I wanted to.
No, I have to go back and check you out. Then is it under your name, Tai Phoenix?
Yeah, I was trying to. I sent you an email and I sent you. But now I have the right cash app. But I was ordering. I wanted to order your services.
Wow. Well, I'm going to exchange numbers with you through email when we get off of here because I would like to talk to you as well. So I want you to read my chart. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. That's how you do it.
Okay. Well, we'll be using each other then.
Absolutely. Yes. All right. Well, thank you,
ladies. Absolutely. Anytime. I hope you ladies could come back again sometime. I really appreciate y'all. Love y'all so much. Y'all
Definitely.
take
Thank you.
care. Y'all have a wonderful evening. And don't hurt nobody out there. Like I said, let's they deserve it. You know what I'm talking about?
All
All
right.
right.
Have a good
Peace
one.
out,
Bye-bye.
y'all. Peace out. Well, thank y'all so much. That was a fire show. Was that or was that not a fire show tonight, y'all? Make sure you follow these sisters on TikTok. And I know, well, if y'all ain't got the TikTok app, you know they messed it up. They selling iPhones on eBay for $10,000 with the TikTok app on. We told y'all TikTok was the bomb a long time ago. And this is where you're going to find. So I'm going to start bringing more people, content creators from TikTok on the Stella Maris podcast so you can get this heat, you can get this information because that's what it's all about. You know what I'm talking about? So once again, thank y'all all for coming out. I appreciate y'all. It's been a powerful show. I really hope that you all that you receive something more than when you walked in here. You got a better idea about these ancient systems that our ancestors used and we still use today. You get to see that it's not demonic as they want you to see. In fact, it's quite empowering once you tap into the power and know that your ancestors knew what they were doing. And the bloodline that they carried and continued on is still living and breathing through you. So, with that being said, peace out. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all. And y'all get, let me say this. If you don't walk in your power, someone is going to take it from you. And then you'll be serving them while they live off of you. So, with that being said, make sure you embrace yourself, you know yourself, and you continue on the journey of of how could I say you continue on the journey of activating your true God self. All right, y'all. Love y'all. Peace out. And this ain't working. I can't get it to work. If you would like to be a guest on the Stella Maris podcast, please contact me at info@sacredtea.net. If you would like to be a guest on the Stella Maris podcast, please contact me at info@sacredtea.net.